Good morning. This is great. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2017 IS Associates Spring Meeting. We've clearly drawn a good-sized crowd this morning. I think there's still probably some more folks that are stuck in traffic, and hopefully they'll be here soon. But I think it's owing to the program, the topic, and the speakers that have been assembled by our program committee under Bhupesh. So thank you all for making the trek out here. There's a couple of things that I wanted to go over in advance. One is just a reminder to please silence your cell phone. Second is I wanted to introduce the newest member of our administrative team, the Office of Information Technology here, Rafi Simonian. Rafi is, big hand for Rafi. You're going to see a lot of Rafi going forward. He is the program manager and will be sort of the point person for the logistics and helping us put together these programs that we host each year. So welcome, Rafi. A couple of things before we get started. I think many of you know that on Monday, March 13th, we lost a good friend, colleague, and fellow ISA board member and supporter, Al Strong. Al will long be remembered for his candor, his mischievous. We're going to get a picture of Al up here in a second. Here we go. Do we need hold on just one sec. There we go. Al is going to long be remembered for his candor, his wonderful stories, his mischievous sense of humor, his dedication to his work, and his loyalty to the broader Southern California IT community that his business served. And without question, Al and his company, Commercial Programming Systems, were always among the most loyal and committed members of the UCLA IS Associates, more than we've really ever seen, frankly. Al founded CPS in the same year that the IS Associates was founded, 1978. And Lou Lieberg, our own founder, recently told me that Al was very fond of sharing that date. He joined 9 years later in 1987, and he never left us. He served our executive board many times in various roles, including as executive board chair in 2004. The CPS website says that Al ran CPS with, quote, love, grit, and determination, and I'd like to think he approached his role and his partnership with ISA with those same qualities. Al was a true friend. He was a mentor to me, a confidant, a trusted partner, whom we will all greatly miss. So at this point, I'd like to invite CPS President Phil Sawyer up to the podium. Phil, to join me in a special acknowledgement. Before I do that, though, Bonnie Meckler, Al's wife, couldn't be here today because she's feeling under the weather, but she shared some thoughts with me that I'd like to share with you. She said Al was an active member of any organization that he belonged to. He seemed to gravitate to leadership positions, but without a doubt, his favorite was IS Associates. He enjoyed serving on the board for many years, participating and watching IS Associates as it changed and grew. He happily served as membership chair a few times and was a champion at bringing in new members. He didn't hesitate to call or connect with a potential new member as many times as it would take to get them to join. He loved the camaraderie of the group. Several of the members, and they know who they are, or you know who you are, would tease and joke with Al all the time. Some of these people would say it was Al who did the joking and the teasing. I am the lucky lady who was partner to this. He was proud to say that CPS was a member of the IS Associates, and CPS looks forward to its continued relationship with the IS Associates. So after almost 30 years of support and commitment to the UCLA IS Associates, and on behalf of our executive chair, Jim Rinaldi, and the entire executive board, it is my distinct pleasure, Phil, to award you this first ever membership in perpetuity to CPS in honor of Al Strong.
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
Well, certainly Al's always been very fond of UCLA IS Associates. He also participated in several other professional organizations, including the what was DPMA became AITP. He was on their Education Foundation. He helped with they had a national coding contest that he would help organize. Personally, I started working with Al in 1976 with another firm out of Kansas City. And I came to work for him after he started CPS in 1984. So it's been a long relationship. He certainly had a wicked sense of humor, you might say. Many of us have suffered at some of his, what he thought was funny anyway. So he will be missed. We really, and we certainly appreciate your honor here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Phil. I also wanted to share some information with you about another one of our supportive members and key partners, Slalom Consulting. As their website indicates, Slalom makes it their mission to create amazing outcomes for their clients and the communities that they serve. Well, they recently did just that for the UCLA IS Associates by offering up services of one of their key web designers to help us redesign our website, which we plan to roll out in the next 8 to 10 weeks. And among the first rollout will be an interview that was done with Al Strong way back in 2004. I can tell you that the work that Slalom did for us on the site was outstanding. And I encourage all of you to check out the following video, which showcases some of the fine services they offer.
Good morning, and welcome to the UCLA IS Associates Spring Meeting. Now, you know, IS Associates has a singular focus.
Something wrong I'm doing?
We are, after all, the technology.
Just need to exit out of PowerPoint, otherwise it won't play. Oh.
Focus of bringing real-world technology and business education to a broad community, including students and faculty, as well as professionals.
Be tech savvy.
I promise you it'll be worth the wait.
Seriously? Yeah. Is there another one open? No, no, I think there's one.
Can we get somebody to-
Just maybe that closed out. Just close all of them, I guess. Yeah.
Good morning, and welcome to the UCLA IS Associates Spring Meeting. Now, you know, IS Associates has a singular focus of bringing real-world technology and business education.
It's not mirrored. You drag it over. I think it's appearing on the edge here. Looks like. Yeah, set it to 1.
Okay, yeah, we'll bring this back.
I have it. I think we got it. Yeah, here we go.
Good morning, and welcome to the UCLA IS Associates Spring Meeting. Now, you know, IS Associates has a singular focus of bringing real-world technology and business education to a broad community, including students and faculty. Good morning, and welcome to the UCLA IS Associates Spring Meeting. Now, you know, IS Associates has a singular focus of bringing real-world technology and business education to a broad community, including students and faculty, as well as professionals and executives from Fortune 500 companies clear through to Silicon Beach startups. It really is a community like no other here in Los Angeles. And so, on behalf of Slalom Consulting, congratulations to you on being a part of this amazing organization, and have a great meeting today. Thank you.
We have great insight in terms of being able to service many different kinds of customers. So not only we focus on media and entertainment, when you look at whether it's retail, you look at healthcare, we're able to collaborate amongst our different leaders and talk about what this means to customers.
The desire to be tech savvy, especially in the financial and banking space, is big. We have clients that are looking at how do I change and transform that retail experience for the general banking customer to have easier access to money, money on demand all the time, and actually be part of their lifestyle as far as some of those portable applications. That's pretty interesting. It's really going to move the needle as far as the opportunities we have to play a slalom.
Every client that we have requires a unique approach to organizational effectiveness and teamwork.
Having really meaningful dialogue around what it means to make sure that we're sharpening skill sets in order to best deliver for our clients, which is our number one goal, of course.
Well, I'm glad we got that in. As you can see, Slalom has a lot to offer, a lot of services, so you may want to seek them out and ask them about that at some point. So with that, I would now like to introduce our program committee chair and our host for this morning, Bhupesh Arora. Bhupesh is the Senior Director of New Technologies and Application Services at Avery Dennison. Bhupesh.
Good morning, everyone. We're also the sponsor today, and we don't have a video. But I want to invite a live person here, Chris Zafferson, who's our finance leader, can speak a few words. Come up to the podium.
Well, good morning. Really excited to be here, and I'm, just really proud of the partnership and the affiliation that Avery Dennison has with the IS Associates. So it was about a year ago, I think, that Bhupesh kind of told me about this amazing organization and convinced me to come to one of the meetings. And I lead the financial planning and analysis group for Avery Dennison. So I'm kind of the guy at your company who tells you, IT not to spend money. So I said, Bhupesh, I don't know if this is a good idea. I don't think they're going to really like me. But he said, no, don't worry, it'll be okay. And I'm certainly glad that I've come and participated. This organization, it's just such an amazing opportunity to connect with such innovative leaders in our communities, and I really enjoy just kind of the discussions and the topics. They're always timely, they're always cutting edge, they're always relevant. And today's going to be, I think, no exception as we talk about kind of rebranding, the kind of the next generation of IT leaders. Honestly, I'm a finance geek, and the reality is that every leader needs to be rebranding themselves, during this age of digital transformation. And you as IT leaders are so important because you understand the immense challenges and the immense opportunities in this space better than anyone. And I will say, if your CEOs, your leaders in HR and legal and finance aren't getting it, it's really incumbent upon you as IT leaders to kind of wake them up to what's going on, and just to push the envelope and kind of challenge the thinking. So I would say as ambassadors of this group, absolutely, feel free to invite, kind of people from other walks of life like myself to this meeting. I know it's made a big difference and a big impact on how I think and how I view the world. So I really appreciate that. And then, just a couple words to bring it back to Avery Dennison. I think many of you were here last year when we had Kim Schneider, one of our IT leaders, speak about our Janella Smart Products platform. Hopefully, I think everyone remembers that last year. And, essentially, for those of you who missed it, we're trying to develop, bring Internet of Things to, kind of the clothing and apparel space. And that was a big pivot for a company like Avery Dennison. We're a very traditional, kind of old school manufacturing company in our heart. And, it's because of really strong IT leaders like Kim and like Bhupesh who, again, challenge the thinking during our strategic dialogue sessions, kind of speak up and, bring a lot of the insight and knowledge of this space into the conversation that our company was able to make that leap, and we're going to be better for it. So please, take everything you hear to heart today, and again, thank you very much for having me here, and enjoy the day.
Well, Chris couldn't have set it up better for me, so thank you, Chris. But today's topic is about developing and rebranding IT leaders, and leadership is not an easy topic. It's humbling. It touches people, teaches you how to respect people. And leadership is also about making a change, which is complex. If we didn't need to make a lot of changes, we don't need a lot of leaders. And in IT, the change is even more important today because we are at a pivotal point, right? We are at a point where digital is making a big difference, right? The expectations of business is different. The rules are changing. And where else is that happening? More in IT than anybody else, any other places. And it's really on us to develop what we call the next generation of IT leaders. And we can do that because we have a lot of talent already there. It's changing the mindset, changing the thinking out here. And to help us go through this journey, today we have visionary leaders joining us and educating us through this journey. So hopefully you learn a lot. We got a great agenda today. We're going to start off with an analyst point of view from CEB. CEB is owned by Gartner. Gartner recently bought them. And then go into more of a practitioner. We have CIOs from big companies such as Farmers Insurance. Ron's going to help us see the journey better. And then Steve Delavan, from Morello Group. And also Cindy McKenzie from Deluxe. So we have a great agenda lined up. So if you're thinking of trying to join a meeting at 10:30, I will say it's not a good idea. So with that, I'm going to invite Vimarsh. Vimarsh is our first speaker. He's the principal executive advisor at CEB. He has advised hundreds of CIOs and IT leaders. And what really got attention is we are subscribed to CEB, and the thought leadership on digital and how leadership needs to change is really interesting how CEB is looking at it. So you're going to enjoy the presentation from Vimarsh. Just a little bit background, Vimarsh also worked in the industry. He worked at Verizon. He was a technology strategist at Verizon Communications, a great industry experience where he developed innovative customer care and billing solutions. And Vimarsh has got a BS, Bachelor of Science, and honors in computer science, and he's an MBA from Wharton School. So great credentials, background. So Vimarsh, please come up to the stage.
Thanks, Rafi. Thanks, Bhupesh. I'm not sure if I'm a visionary leader, but hopefully I'll be a voice of a lot of visionary leaders today. So my topic is definitely something that I have done a presentation on many, many times with a lot of you, I think, in the room. Does anyone not know CEB? Should I raise, okay, couple of hands, okay. So CEB is a best practice and research firm. So essentially, we're trying to be an intelligent filter of what's happening in IT departments and kind of giving you a voice on, okay, here's what the best are doing. And we do have the privilege of working with not only IT, but finance and HR and R&D. And so we do take a perspective of the enterprise when we talk about IT. So that's kind of a little bit about CB. And Bhupesh is right, we did now, you see at the bottom of the page there, CEB is now Gartner. As of 2 weeks ago, Gartner did acquire us, so we're working through the integration here. So leadership principles for digital transformation. I think the first thing people are going to ask is, like, digital, God, like IT is digital, it's been digital, what does digital really mean? So let's dive a little bit deep into digital and get past the hype on digital. Let's see if I can click on this. All right, this seems a little bit off. All right, can you guys see this okay in the back as well? All right, I know it's a little bit of a busy page.
Let's just.
Did I kind of get out of display mode? Thank you. That's much better. Okay. Yeah. All right, can you guys hear me now? All right, much better. All right. So digital essentially is transforming across these three dimensions you see here, the rows we see on the page, right? Operations and workforce, the channel, and the product. And this is digital transformation for our companies, our organizations, right? At the bottom, you can see enhancement through transformation. So in the operations side, you're going to start seeing, or have already seen, digital manufacturing or supply chain digitization, right? On the channel side, hopefully the promise of 10 years of promises on omni-channel marketing, that we finally will have one face to the customer, right? And then the sexiest part about digital that everybody talks about is the product side. Like, hey, we're going to be actually, in IT, be actually possibly generating and creating new products and revenue for our firms, right? So Ford is no longer saying they're selling cars, they're also serving cars, right? We have GE, 2 people from the IT department got promoted to the executive committee because they're going to be generating hundreds of millions of dollars selling engine data to not Boeing, which they used to sell to, but to United Airlines and American Airlines, right? So you've got a transformation happening in our companies, right? And we've got to be able to figure out how we're going to support that. And you see on the right, all those are overlapping because there is a lot of interplay between product, channel, and operations. So digital essentially is an integrated, customer-centric perspective across the enterprise. And I know we've seen this in the past, in a way, potentially, but I want to kind of give you some data on why this has become even more important now. We've looked at CEO index, right? And CEOs, what they are saying about how important technology is for business growth. And this year, they're saying technology is the #1 driver for business growth. It was number 6, in 2004, right? Like it's clearly moved up, right? This is no longer that, hey, we're going to depend on marketing or R&D or sales to grow our business. Technology is going to be the #1 factor. And you look in the right-hand side, as I was mentioning, we have the privilege of working with most of your business partners. So finance, HR, R&D, sales, legal, all of them. And almost 80%, right, 77%, are saying the next 3 years' initiatives are dependent on technology. So here we are, I think it's 17 years after that article that said IT doesn't matter, right, in HBR. And, and so, yeah, it is definitely not the case, right? We have a huge, huge ask from our, from our business partners to go help us across 3 main dimensions. And let me see if I can jump ahead to that just for the sake of, and then I'll come back to this. 3 dimensions. They want us to help them understand where is technology strategy going, give us strategic advice on digital products. They want, of course, still technical expertise, and they want it really fast. Unfortunately, you can see the data, right? On the right-hand side, they're saying only 1 in 5 gives me great strategic advice. Only 1 in 4 gives me sufficient technical expertise. And only 1 in 3 is fast. And again, we have the privilege of working with a lot of business leaders. So the data is about 1,000 business leaders. It's a pretty significant N. I think, I don't know if you guys agree with this data in your companies or not. I see some heads nodding. But I'm not sure if people feel like, hey, we've actually gone past this. Unfortunately, data is saying otherwise right now. Yeah, Jim.
I'm sorry. You know that the statement quote on from the business unit general manager?
Yeah.
I think says a lot.
Yep.
And to me, that's transformational right there. And I'm wondering if that's what you're seeing across industries as well.
Absolutely. We're finding that even a mining company, forget like a fin or tech company, even them, they're saying like, I don't need someone to do like just execution on requirements gathering and just do what I'm asking them. I need them to imagine. And the analogy, again, a transportation CIO gave us was, I'm no longer being asked to keep the trains running on time. I need to figure out where do I lay down new train track. And it's a very different mindset that's expected from us. And yeah, it's a great question, absolutely. Any other questions? Yeah.
We've entered the term technology a lot.
Yeah.
What does that really mean? I mean, are we talking about devices, IoT devices? Are we talking about data? You're using that a lot. It
Yeah.
seems like there's a lot of different applications when they say we need technology to help us get better. What are you seeing? What kinds of technologies? Is it better access to the data, better ways to manipulate the data, better ways to acquire it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's all of them, right? So if you look at the operations chart, right, in there, if you go back, they're saying, well, what can you do to like automate my factory, right? Or something like that. If you're going in the channel side, they're saying, well, what can you do to detect when someone comes into my store and give them a coupon, right? Like, just-in-time customer service, or they're having a bad time. How do I go about addressing that? What can you do there, right? And that would require all kinds of mobility, omni-channel like understanding of the customer. And then, of course, yes, there could be data, like GE did, right, for saying that, hey, we can actually sell the data. There's about, I think it's a terabyte per hour that they generate of flight, the engine. So can we analyze the data and give them diagnostic tools, United Airlines, to service the engine before something goes wrong, right? So it could be all dimensions, is basically what they're saying. And I'll show you examples. We're seeing this across industries. Like Heineken is being asked to come up with sensors, IoT, on 6-packs, right, and in the fridge, and work it with Vons, the grocery store, and saying, okay, how do I create an automated refilling approach to Heineken 6-packs? Yeah. So yeah, it is all of them. It really is broad. And the implications of that for IT are kind of listed out here, and I think that's the number one factor there. Is an extremely important piece. That it's no longer that business strategy, initiatives that we have. We will cascade to IT strategy, and then we will have infra strategy and app strategy. It's not going to work. Business strategy is IT strategy. So it's really, really important that we position ourselves to be able to support that. If you look at the third one there, sole provider of technology on the left, right? We're moving from that to becoming a partner with business-led IT. I know we used to call it shadow IT. We've tried to say, okay, shadow has got a negative connotation. Business-led IT is what it is to a large extent. And why are they doing it? What's our role when they do have business-led IT initiative? Can we develop, in a way, multiple personality disorder to say we're no longer going to be just a provider. Sometimes we're going to be a consultant, sometimes an advisor, sometimes a broker. So yeah, there's all kinds of stances, hats we'll have to wear when we work with them. And the best part about this, I don't know if some of you as CIOs are seeing this, or finance is seeing this, but we're going to move from being considered back office and SG&A at the bottom to cost of goods sold. I see a head nodding in the finance department. That's good. So yeah, it's changing the meaning of IT. Yeah, and what does that mean for us? We've got to go and do a lot of things faster. We got to be flexible. We got to know our businesses more. We got to improve our customer experience while, yes, not pissing off the finance people and keeping it reliable, right? So we got to be cost efficient and reliable, but we got to be doing all of these things. Big asks, lots of great imperatives from this. But the focus today I was going to do was kind of focus on elements 2 and 9. So this is the new IT operating model for digital. What do we as IT organizations do to interact with our business partners in a different kind way? So IT, just like finance or HR, has been organized like it was organized by Henry Ford 120 years ago, right? It was all about what we do. So we do apps, we do infrastructure, we do PMO, and we kind of force our customers to interact with us through what we do. And that is no longer going to be sufficient. So the number one call out there is products over projects. It's essentially saying we have to talk about the business capabilities we're enabling, whether it is in the operation side, whether it is in the channel side, whether it is on the product side. The products mindset, the capability-based approach to interacting with our business partners is going to be a critical shift we all have to follow. And when we interact based on products rather than projects, we're going to have to adapt our business engagement, which you see as the number 2 call out there. This is a very, very, very busy page, but I just want to kind of just say that depending on the product, whether it is a running the company, so hey, finance could be a crown jewel, we got to keep it very much about efficiency and reliability versus a competitive product that we are kind of enabling the next millions of dollars for the company. There we might be all about speed, not cost. So how do we go about changing our engagement based on the product type we have is going to be a critical way of changing the way we engage with our business partners.
So
yeah.
Do you see that,
Sandy.
I actually don't see it product-based, I see it customer journey-based.
Ah, okay.
Because you might have 5 products
Yes.
in a process from a customer perspective.
Great.
Do you see that? I see it switching to be more end-to-end delivery to a customer and then product.
Yeah, so the term product has been a little bit of a debate internally in our research team of what product means, really, because it's been co-opted by quite a few other products, right? But customer-centric design, and that is customer journey mapping, is definitely going to be an integral part for the products are also interchangeably called capabilities or end-to-end services that we offer. So it actually is one way, it's a how. Customer journey mapping will be a how to make that product better. So we actually have a great case from State Farm who's done exactly that, journey mapping, kind of how they've gone about doing that for products that they sell. By products, they mean end-to-end services. I think we're talking the same thing, but yeah, it's definitely, and that's number 4. We're not talking about it today, but if you are interested, we can definitely talk more about it offline. But today I was going to talk about number 2 and number 9, which is how do we engage differently depending on product? Yes.
The one thing that I see in number 2 and number 9, and it doesn't appear in any of the other entries, is the word adaptive.
Adaptive, yeah.
And to me, it sounds like you want to actually build resilience in an organization, which is defined by me as bouncing back from setbacks totally unexpected with speed and with effective ways to beat the competition if they have the same situation. So in that case, I want to ask a question. It sounds to me like the CIO should be the right-hand person of the chief executive officer and be present in all the meetings. Is this the case right now? When they talk strategy, when they talk, when you have the key 5 people that report to the person who is at the helm,
Yeah.
I think what you are telling me is you've got to be there. If you're a CIO.
I mean, and not only the CIO, actually, I would say that the whole entire IT department needs to do that. Now, the skill part comes in play here. Like some CIOs are going to be operational CIOs. They just want to be system-based CIOs, and they're going to be that mindset. Most CIOs now that are going to have to succeed are going to have to be and say, how do I become an evangelist for technology? How do I become a consultant to the different departments? Yeah.
Going from number 6 to number 1.
Yeah. It's a very big, yes.
You have to be right there where things are happening.
Absolutely.
Good speed and know it first, and maybe be in a position to almost suggest what we should be thinking if we can right now before it's even happening, so that we can actually do
Absolutely.
what it takes to avoid
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, we're showing an example from Heineken on exactly that as well. Yeah, absolutely. But that is that mindset shift that we need. Unfortunately, the data says that 92% of us in this room and across the board, and we have 3,000 IT employees we assessed in a formal psychological assessment, are not ready for being adaptive. Okay? So we've got to work on that as a leadership team here to kind of say, what can we do to overcome some of those limitations? Because we are pretty adaptive at home. Something happens to us in our organization. So there is something going on that we've got to go and overcome for them. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me dive into this. Let's talk about number 2, adaptive engagement. So you're going to engage people depending on the person you're dealing with, right? You said, right, hey, we need to be engaging with everyone, right, in the company. Well, I don't want to call out finance again, but I'll just call it out. So finance could be a technology neophyte, okay? And there you can say to them, here's what I need you to do, and here is what we're going to do for you. You can be very prescriptive to a neophyte. But if you do that with someone in the product side on marketing, for example, who is a dreamer, they're going to tune you out and actually say, I'm not going to listen to you because I have some other ideas and you're not giving me an opportunity to present my ideas. So the way you talk to a dreamer versus a neophyte is going to be very descriptive, very, very different. And definitely a digital business innovator, same deal. Like it's even more so that you're going to have to be wearing a different hat that might be, hey, I'm going to actually be potentially a broker for you or an advisor rather than a provider. Because you're, at this point, an expert for your company, not just an expert in the technology. When you're dealing with a digital business innovator, you need to be putting on the company hat, not the technology hat. If you tell them, hey, I'm going to get you, this great hosting solution, it's going to fall flat. They don't need that. They need, to that general manager quote that was earlier, or I can give me your requirements and I'll give you the product. It's not going to work. They are going to want you to come up with, where do we lay down new train track? Yeah, and that is a different mindset that's required from us. So you just to kind of orient you to the chart, the digital ambitions of the stakeholders, right, going from low to high, and then digital ability of the stakeholders going from low to high. that the way you deal with someone, depending on their ambition and their ability, is going to be starkly different. And we all have to develop very different personalities to engage with them in a meaningful way. And I'll show you what those are, kind of jump ahead. But yeah, so these are the 5 that we're seeing we need to all develop. And you want to call it multiple personality disorder, fine, but I think it really is just wearing multiple hats, right? Yeah. Oh, sure.
You show techies going north anyway. You see the 2 directions, the dreamers and the techies. There is research of the last few years, right here at UCLA, and I will not belabor it too much, that suggests that to bring these 2 more frequently together, not to solve problems,
Oh, right.
to engage in conversation, whatever that is, and I won't go through the details, then they'll go back to their cubby holes, and unbeknownst to them, the brain is going to start thinking not in that direction, but a little closer to where you really want to go, which does justice to both. That's for some other time.
Yeah, no, that's extremely fair. And
That's the new brain research, and I'm talking about, again, using technology which is totally unknown as of 2-3 years ago.
Great point. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it is. It's going to be, again, this is where we can play a very big role. Sometimes, and architecture, in particular, enterprise architecture is playing a pretty big role to kind of make the possibilities real. And
The first is going to have really to be number 1 in the marketplace.
absolutely, that we all want that competitive advantage. So, so we were going to talk about adaptive engagement, right? And adaptive engagement will require 4 things. I'll talk about the first one, flexing IT's role, right? And this is, we're going to be shifting between being an evangelist sometimes, and I'll show you an example from Heineken on what Heineken has done to become an evangelist in their company, to being a consultant or a broker or a coach. And you know, the 5th role is what we all are very used to, the delivery role. We've all been doing that. That is one that we still have to do for quite a few places, right, for running the firm. But for growing the firm, we need all kinds of different options. And I'm curious if I had, like, if there were thoughts on like how many people feel that they have all these personalities in their teams. I think some of you, yeah, you know, you kind of, I'm seeing head nodding there. So can we do it at scale is what's being asked. I think that's the challenge. I think we can all think of people and we can put them in, that person is a great broker. They know how to network people. But yeah, can we do this at scale? It's tough. And I think one of the things that we've found is that because we are stuck at the bottom in delivery, we slow things down a lot for our firms. And that's why they feel that we're too slow and we're very good for large-scale systems, not for the new digital opportunities. And we've got to change that mind in our firms, and we definitely have to change their perceptions on it. We can't just say we're going to become faster. We've got to do something about it, and those 4 stances could potentially help. Okay? So without much further ado, let's go talk about an example from Heineken on evangelism. So Heineken, you know, is not really a beverages company. They're a marketing company, right? Everybody makes beer, right? They market it much, much better than everyone else, right? And so what they found was IT was getting sidelined every single time. They were hiring creative agencies, technology agencies outside, and trying to get, you know, IT to go and implement whatever solution that they came up with from an external creative agency, because they felt that you know, IT was much better for on the right-hand side for governance and architecture, which is nice, and maybe a little bit of technology innovation, but not really about changing the way Heineken will be run, right? And so what Rob at Heineken's architecture group did was said, you know what, I got to change that perception. I'm banging my head against the wall. These ideas that you paid millions of dollars to a creative agency to get, we've already come up with 3 months ago, if you just talk to us, right? And you're like, well, we didn't know you guys were working on this. We didn't know you had that capacity. And so he formally created three new areas in the architecture group, right? A digital competency area, a new ways of working section, and digital technology accelerators. And what they ended up doing, which was really, really cool, was just like a creative agency, they created briefs for the different partners in the company. So when they went in to talk to marketing, they had an innovation dossier, a brief that you see there, on here's the latest and greatest on marketing that we think you should be exploring. So they were evangelizing technologies to marketing, to supply chain, to sales, to become a thought partner with them in adopting the latest technology. And they've kind of gone through another iteration now, lots more detail on this, but what you see on this page is the process they go through for digital innovation exercises. Anybody doing something similar already in their organizations? Jim?
You know, I'm going to pick on the term a little bit
Yeah.
because I haven't seen an EA person who actually knows how to do that.
Okay.
So I think that's a one-off, and at Heineken, they must be trying their product out while they're having this match.
They're more comfortable.
So my thinking is this type, I think, take the EA away.
Yeah.
I think the functions that you're talking about
Exactly.
make a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
But that might be the CIO, that might be the CTO, that might be
Absolutely.
A different type of communication than I typically found from someone with the title of EA. And no offense to EA people.
But I think
Yeah. Oh, Shiva is now going to. This is the EA person speaks.
so what I see good about this is they have created three new bodies inside the EA. That is what inspiring to me, because the right-hand side is the normal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Jim is alluding to.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. But they thought about it and said, okay, I want to create new teams, and he brought in the staff who is capable of doing that.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
But I think Jim's point is, does it belong in EA? And it doesn't need to. And there is, and one of the things that, of course, with any new thing, CDO is a new title that everybody wants to throw out. So we found that actually Chief Data Officer is a lot more prevalent than Chief Digital Officer, to your point about partnering with the CEO. But it's not anything specific in EA. All I wanted to bring out was these competencies are something that IT can do and has done. Yeah. The capacity. Yeah. Yeah, skill and will problem. Yeah, absolutely. So they might have the skill, but they don't have the will because of demand, or the other way around as well. Yeah, I think to a large extent. Oh, one more question.
Quick comment.
Yeah.
To me, one of the challenges with this approach is that they're literally trying to compete against the outside party, right? That they're going to provide the same service. I think a model that might be more sustainable is that in modern business processes, there is no process without the technology. Right? It's no longer an additive or something to make it more efficient. It is a base requirement to deliver the process or capability. And that means that people with experience in technology and how to leverage it now become part of the operation. So they're sitting in a peer, they should be sitting in a peer situation with the business operation as opposed to competing with other people who are trying to get their attention. That's just my point of view.
Yeah, I don't know if so it's competing with, in a way that hopefully is a cooperative way, because what they have is an internal understanding of the capabilities of Heineken that likely an external agency may not have. So there might be clearly still a room. It's a hybrid play, right? You can't eliminate creative agencies from Heineken's approach and marketing, but there might be some complementing of shaping how that creative agency will partner with them. But yeah, you're right. There's a fundamental, transformation that's happening everywhere. And you had a query. Yeah.
You mentioned that the chief data officer is more
Yeah.
prevalent than chief digital officer.
Yeah.
Are they growing or are they shrinking in terms of usage? So it came up a lot. I don't hear much about chief digital officer, data officer anymore.
Growing as in terms of prevalence, it is still growing. We're seeing that it's a 3 to 5 year role, is what most people are saying. It's like ideally you should, as to that point made earlier, everything is digital, everything is technology based. So eventually you're going to get to a point where you don't need a chief data officer, but in the short run, people are trying to put those things in place to corral and kind of figure out, okay, is there an enterprise data approach that we can come up with?
And are you seeing that as a reaction to the CIO not acting fast enough in terms of monetizing data and in terms of...
I mean, I don't know if it's fast enough only, but yes, the speed is definitely a factor. I think there is but sometimes a skill issue. They may not have that skill, or they may not even have the will to do it, right? So definitely multiple factors, but yeah, speed is definitely one of the limiting factors. I know I'm running up on time, so I'm going to jump ahead. Just some of the slides, and I don't know if you guys are going to get distribution of this, but this is kind of showing how the PMO, the project management office, is changing their postures. So they are, if you look at those columns, they're definitely doing executing, but they're also now doing coaching and consulting and brokering. Yeah. So that's another piece that, again, multiple stances to be taken by every function in IT. To the point that was made earlier about being Socratic with your business partners, CareFusion has come up with not the questions to ask the vendors, but the questions that every head of the function should ask themselves. And that kind of forces them to ask, things like, why are we doing this? Like, what's the business capability we're going to go after? If you go too sophomoric with your business partner, they're going to get turned off again. Going back to the dreamer versus techie piece. So just get them to ask the right questions for themselves.
Anticipate, not respond.
Correct. Exactly. But even more so that you're arming them, so they don't even have to ask you. And I think that's even more uncomfortable for a lot of us. Saying, hey, can we arm the business partner to ask the questions themselves so that we don't come to this problem where they throw something at us and huge amounts of architecture problems and integration or technical debt problems or security problems, all the usual stuff that we hear about, the 1,000 flowers blooming. Yeah. One last point on this. We have been very good at building relationships with our business partners. On the right-hand side, you can kind of see we're now considered, hey, we get along with others, we're likable, we're generous with our time. What has happened is that is 3 times less effective than being a challenger. A challenger is someone who actually builds up constructive tension, not being a jerk, but builds up constructive tension with the business partners. So they teach them something about their own business, which means they got to have business knowledge, right? They got to be tailoring the message depending on that, is it a neophyte or a dreamer, right? And then they've got to be able to assert control when needed. It's not an easy stance for a lot of us in IT, but that is where, and we have data again that shows, and this comes from the Sales Executive Council. We work with heads of sales, and in complex selling solutions, right, which is what IT is, we're selling complex solutions, B2B, a challenger is 3 times more effective than a relationship builder. Yeah? So again, let's figure out a way to shape demand and become more challengers. Last piece, we do have a lot of data on the skills we have and the mindset we have in IT. And we have clear data that shows that there is a more balanced approach we need. We need more versatile players and targeted players, not just more targeted players anymore in this world, right? So versatility is going to be extremely important. And I'm going to jump ahead and show you this data point, and I'm going to stop talking mostly. We have 3,000 IT employees we assessed, okay? And these 12 competencies are the most important competencies we think are needed in this new digital world. And the ones that are on the bottom there, influencing skills, relationship management skills, decision-making skills, across the board, very low competency, yeah? Very, very low in proficiency there. So we've got to figure out a way to how do we help them become more proficient in those skills, because they're going to need that, yeah?
Just word. Challenger versus relationship builder. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be an either or.
Right.
It's a tyranny of
That's a point.
both.
It's a good point.
It needs to be both, period.
Yeah.
Not one or the other.
Yeah. It's an additive.
Both will happen.
Absolutely. That's true. You will get more credibility and build a relationship because of more meaningful relationship. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I was going to, let's just, because of time, one thing that I was going to say was that give your teams opportunities by positioning them not on titles, but experiences, which is another piece that is going to be an extremely important piece. We are going to have to give them more experiences. We're running out of titles for people. And everybody wants a CIO title. So yes, go for what their aspiration is, and then give them, the right-hand side you see, the experiences to build out those things. So final 2 points on the key takeaways. We've got to be able to flex our roles, develop multiple personality disorder as needed, become consultants, become brokers, become coaches, beyond just being great delivery people. And we've got to build technical depth, which they still need, as well as engagement skills in parallel. We need both. So I'll pause here and open it up for more questions. Of course, yes, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. We just have time for one question.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
So most of the slides that you have shown over here are very similar and mirror the service management practice. Has there been any study or look into how transformation and service management are to mirror each other and what is existing and it can be leveraged for this transformation?
Absolutely. That's a great point. Actually, there's a whole set of work that we've done on service management being product management, essentially. And that is actually something that we've got hundreds and hundreds of materials on. But yeah, the point is absolutely well taken. Infrastructure, in a way, in a bizarre way, could be a great foundation for thinking and taking an advantage of this. The problem is we kind of, again, sometimes get trapped with, hey, an ITIL-based kind of ITSM-based mindset, and then we forget the top-down mindset that we need to really get to what was, I think, Cindy's point earlier, which was a customer-centric perspective. What is the capability? So as long as you can use that foundational skill, which is service management, but do it top-down, not bottoms-up, you could definitely do that. Absolutely. Okay, great point. Yeah.
Well,
Thanks.
Thank you very much for
Of course.
this. So there's a wealth of knowledge here with Vimarsh, and you just got a glimpse of it. We will share the presentation, and Vimarsh will be there, but if you want more, you have to sign up for CEB subscription, I think. But it's really an amazing presentation, and I sat with Vimarsh, went through all the slides, and I thought it'll be really valuable to share with the audience. So a lot of good thinking really goes down to the basics, but super important, right? So with that, I'm going to invite the next speaker, Ron Courier. He's the CIO of Farmers Insurance. So Ron joined Farmers Insurance recently, I think over a year at Farmers Insurance, approximately. And he has 20 years of IT leadership experience. Ron was the CIO at Toyota before that. And Ron is just charting the course in driving innovation, building partnerships at Farmers Insurance. Ron is also engaged with many other activities which are community building. So he's involved with STEM Advantage, and we support that too, bringing interns and supporting local schools. Also with Haiti, with the country, supporting that, and Habitat for Humanity. So Ron is really well known in the community. I'm sure most of you know him or have seen him speaking. So I'm really privileged to invite Ron over to speak today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Let's do this again. Good morning, everyone. All right, so before I even start, and this is not a brag, this is the total truth. I have spoken at Dreamforce, a lot of people. I've spoken to the parliament in Haiti after the earthquake, and I'm usually not nervous about these kind of things. But today, for some reason, this man is sitting in front. So I'm going to explain who this man is. So this is Professor Moshe. Now, Professor Moshe, and you guys may not know him, Professor Moshe runs a program here at UCLA. He's been affiliated with UCLA for over 55 years or something like that. I own the place. You own the place. You own the place. And so when I heard the questions coming, I'm like, oh my God, who's the guy in the front? And I looked, and it's Professor Moshe. Even more impressive is your daughter, Dr. Iris. She's amazing as well. She talks about the cognitive side of things and all that. So I'm a little nervous because he's right in front. I know she's your daughter, but it's like, wow, she was sitting there, I would not speak. It's amazing. No, please poke holes in it, because you'll see in things that you spoke of and things that I've learned from you over the years when I was at Toyota is embedded in how I approach IT. So you're going to see some of this stuff. So thank you very much. So with that being said, my name is Ron Gary, as was presented, but I'm actually going to jump in, and the way I'm going to do this slide is pretty straightforward. It's a Prezi. I decided to go off of the PDF PPT train. The reason I did that is because about 5 years ago, my daughter, who is 17, she's going off to college next year. She told me this thing about Prezi a few years back. And I'm like, what the hell is this Prezi? I've never heard of it. And so all of a sudden, I now use it. And I find it just a different way to engage the audience. So with that being said, we'll jump into it. So Farmers Insurance. We're going to talk about Farmers Insurance. I'll reintroduce you to the brand. Many of you guys may not know some things. Actually, if I saw a show of hands, and please don't do it, I have a lot of my Farmers colleagues in the room. So they'll hold me honest to what I'm actually going to share. I'm also going to talk about One IT. And One IT, the reason it's going to be shared is my goal, and I did this when I was at Toyota, and I plagiarized myself a lot of ways. We have to work as an IT unit. We have to work as one. And you'll hear one of the reasons why, and how we can actually build leadership within the organization. Based off of my learnings at Toyota, 20 years, from the professor and other people that I've actually learned through. And actually, some of them are in the room, such as my friends at JPL. So thank you for that. So we'll jump into it. Who is Farmers Insurance? So we'll just jump into who is in Farmers. Everyone knows the jingle, right? Right? Could everyone do it for me real quick? We are farmers. All right. We'll practice that later. That was terrible. Okay. It's another skill we're working on. So we're the insurance company that knows a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two, including a chauffeured terrier. Audio. So in this one, imagine the squirrel is going on the roof. And the audio would tell you that the car is running away. And Jason Day is actually the PJ, our golf professional.
What the?
And we covered it February 23rd, 2016. Talk to farmers. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
All right. And so the one thing about those commercials, they actually are really well received. They're actual real claims. When we say that those things happened, that literally happened. Now, of course, we've made it a little bit more, embellished it a little bit, but those are actually true things. We've gone to our claims department and said, what are the most interesting claims? And we actually made commercials about them. Our goal is to make our policyholders smarter about what they do, which is important to make sure our agents understand what they do as well. And I'll talk about that ecosystem really quick in a second or two. So going off with Jason Day, let's tell you about farmers. It was formed in 1928. Does anyone remember what happened in 1929? Yeah, the stock market dropped. So think about it. This was a startup right before that happened. Think about that. 89 years young, John C. Tyler and Thomas E. Levy, both World War I veterans. And you'll see a lot of that theme in what we do at Farmers. A lot of suits for veterans, a lot of things we do back for veterans. The Farmers Insurance Open in San Diego, we're there for 7 days with the executive staff and others, because we're actually working with the local military groups, and we're actually providing a lot of things for them, for their kids and such. So it's really exciting that Farmers takes it beyond just the insurance. We'll talk about that in a second. The concept here was back in 1928, they realized that farmers, and that's why you're wondering why we call farmers, farmers were not getting the right insurance products they needed, so they decided to go door to door and start selling insurance products. Their office opened roughly 5 miles away from here off of Wilshire. So this is truly a hometown brand. So if you don't have farmers insurance, maybe you want to reconsider that. So I'm a car guy, and it was great to know that the first policy was issued April 9th, 1928, on a 1925 Cadillac Phaeton. Yeah, that's probably worth a lot of money today, but that was the first thing that was insured. So odd fact is when I joined Toyota 20 years ago, I had 2 final interviews. Final interview with Toyota up in Chicago, final interview with Zurich Insurance up in Schaumburg. I had a choice, I chose Toyota. 20 years later, I'm working for one of the Zurich family companies, because Zurich is partly owns Farmers. So it's funny how it all came full circle 20 years later. We grew a bit. See a lot of pictures of just the organization growing. That is the iconic building off of Wilshire. We actually sold it 2 years ago, and we're slowly moving out of it. And I believe it's going to become condos. Condos. The millennials are coming. The millennials are coming. So they're taking it over. But nonetheless, there's an actual University of Farmers, in case you're surprised. There actually is. It's in Wilshire. No, not Wilshire, sorry. Westlake. And it's actually a place you could go in, and there's a garage where all the technicians will go in there, and they actually could learn how to do a claim on a vehicle or go into a home and what have you. And what you're going to learn is some of the things we're doing in innovation is how we're going to virtualize that environment so they don't have to physically come to California. They could do it from anywhere. And we hand out box and other things to actually bring that technology to the claims agents. More on that in a second. And the last thing, our headquarters now is in Woodland Hills, California, which I did not realize was actually still part of LA proper. I'm relatively still new to LA, moved out here in 2005, and I didn't realize how expansive this city is. So those of you who drive know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we serve over 10 million households, 19 million individual policies, and we are I'll just skip to the meat of it, we are a Fortune 227, so we're a Fortune 250 company. Now I'm going to pause on that. There's a sense of pride with that. I know how you say Fortune 500, that's great. However, I will tell you, anyone remember Blockbuster Video? They were a Fortune 500 at one point. Wayne Zenga owned it. He actually bought the Miami Dolphins based off the proceeds of that, and a car company and all that good stuff. And if you know the story, Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix. They opted out. They said Netflix's technology will never be good enough. 3 years later, Netflix had a chance to buy Blockbuster and said, who the hell wants to drive in the cold and deal with that? And as you know the story, and it's an article on this, there are 8 Blockbusters in the United States still, 8. They're all individually franchised, and the one that was highlighted was one that was in Anchorage, Alaska. And it's a full, and you may have seen this, it was on Facebook and LinkedIn recently, so it's pretty amazing. But nonetheless, the reason I bring that up is that you're gonna get disrupted. It's gonna happen. You can't get comfortable. The fact you're an 89-year young company does not mean you're safe. Everyone is fair game right now with the digital, and everyone has to upskill themselves, per the conversation that was actually happening earlier today. So we'll jump into the next one. This is just my bio. That's me. That's what I look like. Thank you. In the interest of time, we're going to talk about the next gen of Farmers information technology. So the old norms on the left-hand side on the chalkboard, and my friend Chris in the audience helped me with this, so thank you, Christopher. Complexity, one size fits all, batch processing, product-centric, risk management that looks back. This is the way that we as IT historically have built our systems. Pause for a second. You guys remember those days? It kind of still happens right now. The order take your role that we kind of have lived in. The new norm, simplicity and transparency. And when I say that, I'll pause. Farmers Insurance doesn't just compete with Allstate, State Farm. You know the brands. We compete with Zappos. We compete with Amazon. Because that experience on the phone is that experience that we're competing against. And we have to think that way. The fact our website loads in 15 seconds is no longer acceptable. Because Zappos could do it in 3.5. So we have to get that experience right. So simplicity is extremely important. Omnichannel customization, there's a lot of work we're doing with Salesforce in that, and I'll speak to it a little bit later. I'll just say platform as a service. I'll try to be agnostic of the product. Real time, very important. How many of you like shopping at 2 a.m.? Or sorry, after midnight? Who has shopped after midnight? In your PJs and just watching SportsCenter for the 13th time? That's me? Okay, so with that being said, that is the world that we live in, and we have to make sure our systems are relevant and they can respond at 2 a.m. just like they can at 2 p.m. Add on top of that, we're an agent-focused organization. I'm going to pause real quick. How many Starbucks in the United States? Does anyone know how many Starbucks stores are in the United States? My farmers' friends cannot say this. You've heard this before. How many Starbucks in the United States? 13,000 is your question? Anyone else? A zillion, feels like it. So at the last count, it's 11,500 Starbucks stores in the United States. Very close. Your number is more appropriate to how many farmer agency stores we have. We have 13,200 farmer agency stores. We have more farmer stores fronts than Starbucks in the United States. What does that mean? We have to start thinking like a retailer. We got to think about distribution. We have to make sure our systems are adequate. I can tell you today, our agency fronts, their IT support is provided by their nieces and nephews. They come in and say, hey, Dad, I'll set you up. I'll put your Norton Works on. I'll do whatever you need. All right, it's really cheap, which is understood. However, we can't distribute information the right way to 13,000 storefronts. Those 13,000 storefronts have 40,000 exclusive agents. So you add the 21,000 employees we have, the 40,000 exclusive agents, which mean they only sell our product. Then we have roughly another 40,000 independent agents that sell our products and everyone else's product. So when you think about it, our footprint is almost 100,000 people that my IT team has to make sure they're responsible to, which is daunting, but it's also exciting at the same time. Customer-centric, extremely important, which I spoke to of the experience, and forward-thinking, looking risk avoidance and mitigation versus the look back. And what exciting part about this is our chief risk officer is partnering with me to make sure that we're mitigating risk, because you can't do innovation, it will be stifled if your chief risk officer never wants to dip their toe in the pool. Let's just call it what it is. And so we've actually have a phenomenal chief risk officer, Carol, who does a great job. She's brought on people on her staff who understand technology. So we're talking technology as opposed to here's technology, well, here are all the walls and barriers that we need to put in front of it. The dialogue is changing. So I just want to bring that up. So this part is going to be somewhat interactive. I need one victim, a person, to come up. Anyone want to come up? I'm going to pick up my good friend. No, I want this man right here. Because you work for JPL. Come on. Come on. So Jim Rinaldi is actually the CIO of the Jet Propulsion Lab. I've known Jim for quite some time. He did not know I was going to do this. Can you please stand in front? We're going to act like it's Family Feud, right? I'm Steve Harvey. Step up forward so the light's not blinding you. Okay, it was pretty good. Okay, so the cost of storage. I'm going to ask you a question. And you have to tell me what was the cost of storage in that year. Okay. Audience will see it. You will not. Okay. You have 30 seconds. I'm just joking. You don't. Okay. The cost of storage for 1 gig of data. In 1980, what was the cost of data, of 1 gig of data in 1980?
Oh, that was probably at least $500,000.
Whoa! I picked the wrong guy. $438,000 for 1 gig of data.
Right. Yeah, that's what I paid, but
Okay, we won't talk about product. In 1985, 5 years later, what was the cost of 1 gig of data?
5 years later, around 200.
Okay, you're a little high, but it's 105. 105, still astronomical. 1990, okay, you're talking 30 years ago.
1990?
Yeah.
Probably about 15,000.
Wow, 11,000. 11,000. Definitely picked a rocket scientist on the run. In the year 2000, Y2K, everything's going on, the world's going to die. What's going on, and how much does it cost 1 gig of data?
1 gig back then, about 800 to 900.
$11. $11.
bucks.
$11. Yes, it dropped significantly. Wow. 2005. There's a couple more. 2005.
10 cents.
Okay, no, a buck. A buck. 2012.
10 cents.
10 cents. You hit it on the head. 2014.
We're talking about a penny.
Okay, 3 cents. And in 2017.
We're talking about a penny.
We're talking free. 15 gigs, 10 gigs on box, 5 gigs on Amazon is free. Thank you, Jim, for playing along. Thank you. Okay, so why I did that other than just put a good friend on the spot, which is always fun. is I want to show that the cost of data is going down. And just one example of how the consumerization, the adoption of information is so much easier now. Things are just easier to get out there, and technology is changing. So I'm going to do another example, and I'm not going to pull anyone up here. Hyper-connected world, we're going to talk about these use cases. What company started as a retailer, payments, devices, infrastructure, drones, and entertainment? Amazon. Think about it. I used to love going to Borders and Brock's and whatever and just sitting there, read a magazine for free, and walk out, right? It's fun times, right? Can't do that anymore. Why? Because Amazon decided to come in and they disrupted it and they did a phenomenal job doing it. But think about this. Amazon was up for an Oscar. Amazon. This guy's going to put a guy on a moon. Amazon. You wouldn't have said that 5, 10 years ago. No different than you see in the backseat of a stranger's vehicle with an app and he's going to drive you from A to B and you'll trust him. We did it in a yellow vehicle, cabs, but a personal vehicle? That's strange. Now it's the norm. Now it's the norm. The second one is Apple. I'll just throw it out there. Devices, media, communication, software, wearables, and payments. Apple came in and disrupted it. Keep that in mind. They have well over $90 billion in just cash they're sitting on somewhere in a bank in Ireland. Right? That's happening right now. Tax-free, but it's out there. So think about that. And the last one is any telco provider. Started in telecom, is working in connected health, entertainment, cloud, connected home. Why do I bring this up? As leaders, as people in this industry, we have to understand what is disrupting us, and it's not what you traditionally think it is. You would think that an insurer will be disrupted by another insurer. That's not quite the case. We could be disrupted by Amazon, Apple, or whatever company that has a way to break the value cycle. And that's what we're thinking about at Farmers, and that's what everyone should be thinking about as a leader in IT. But it's an exciting time. You want to be on that train, making those decisions, as opposed to being the caboose watching it. And that's what's so exciting about being in IT. So I'll move on. So some of you guys have seen this before. I won't go and belabor it, but this is truly an advent of learnings I've had from Professor Moshi's class, as well as some experiences I've had. So my next statement, to those of my friends in the room who are consultants, please bear with me on this one. So I just want to preempt this. You walk into a conference room. It's an executive conference room. And on the screen, it says slide number 32. You missed 31 slides before that. The slide you see says next steps. That's all it says. Your executives in the room, CEO, CFO, CEO, everyone's in there but you. And you're called in the hour break to have a discussion about what's next. You have no idea what was told before. And what happens is the consultant or whoever's in the room has told your executive business staff how horrible you are. It is what it is. There are opportunities. There's this, there's that. You may want to outsource this, you may want to outsource that. That is the situation you're presented. That happened to me. I had a couple of choices. I could have just taken it and said, okay, we'll work with whoever it is and we'll make the changes. Or you challenge your executive staff in a really respectful way. Give us a shot. Give us about a week and a half. Let's present our opinion from within the organization, and let's just balance them. Let's give us a chance. We work for you, and give us that chance. And we did that. We did that at my last organization, and actually they listened. We presented a white paper and said, this is what we need to do in IT to kind of take the reins back. We understand where our holes are, our pitfalls are. Just because we have an employee badge doesn't make us less intelligent than the consultant that just came in the room. Give us that shot. So we presented a white paper. We didn't put our names on it or anything like that. And they ate it up. Oh my God, this makes sense. You know us. Who did this? Who did this work? And in the last slide, we revealed your employees. We did this. And the premise of that was these 5 E's that I actually used and I brought over and I plagiarized over at Farmers. Explore what's next. These are essentially our guiding principles within IT. We have to explore what's next. We have to engage each other. Because a lot of times, by nature, IT folks like to go into the back cave, tinker on things, and it's like, it costs you $10 million, where's my money, right? It doesn't work that way. We have to engage each other in a different way. This is engagement. We have to enable our business. A lot of times we have IT pet projects. We have to make sure the business is aware of what those IT pet projects are. Eliminate waste. Japanese term is called muda. Our job is to find opportunities to eliminate waste, improve Kaizen, and reinvest that money into innovation, which I'll talk to in a second. And again, a word that was actually used several times, evangelize value. If Jeff Daly, our CEO, only hears from Ron on Mondays when there's an outage, Ron will not be working for Jeff Daly for too long. Call it what it is. My job is to make sure when Jeff hears from Ron, it's not only about an outage, but hopefully it's more about a business opportunity. And the conversation earlier is that we do sit at the executive staff. I do sit on his executive board. And my executives sit on their executive board. So everyone is bedded into the business. which is very important. And I think I heard that from a young man in the front row several years ago. So we definitely did that at Toyota, and I carried that process over at Farmers. But the one last thing I'll say about the role of the CIO, it's evolved. And I contributed to a paper on this one. And the title of CIO is morphing to CIII. And I'll explain what that means for me. Chief Information Officer, my job is to make the trains run. The lights have to be on Monday. Everything has to work. At the end of the day, that is table stakes. I can't do that. I don't deserve the badge. I should go out and do Uber, which I did for 2 weeks, actually. It was really exciting. I hated it. I got stuck on a college campus, and they put me in this perpetual circle. This drunk kid threw up in my car. It was not good. But nonetheless, that's a squirrel. I chase squirrels. So my job as a Chief Information Officer is just a traditional role of the job. Everyone understands that. The next one is the Chief Integration Officer. And this is a statement I heard earlier. My job is to make sure I integrate many different things, legacy and new, right? A lot of times we always say, well, the legacy system is outdated, is antiquated. Well, if we're technologists, we should find ways to use bots. We should find ways to make that antiquated systems a little bit more palatable until the new systems come into place. We have to integrate old and new. We have to find a way. We can't just say it's just the way it is. And you can't say it's legacy. I didn't build it, so therefore it's not my problem. The minute I sat on December 8th of 2016, I started at Farmers, it was my problem. So integration is very important. The other integration is between the business and suppliers. One notion that we always have is that if you build, they will come. The business has a need, I have programmers, they will build it. And I think the new notion of a CIO, you have to reach out to providers and talk to them. You can't keep your head in the sand. There's a commercial out there where they're talking about investments, and they have people's heads in the sand like ostriches. And in the minute the market changes, they run off like lemmings, right? We can't be ostriches. We have to engage the business in a different way. And so the reason I bring this up, and it's not a product endorsement, but it's just a fact. Dreamforce happened, as you guys know. It's one of the biggest Dreamforce opportunities. Everyone's out there. And our CEO was on stage with Mark Benioff talking about farmers. Next week, I have to go to New York because we're doing this world tour thing. And on stage, I'm sharing the stage with one of the presidents of Amazon. The fact that Farmers is in the same conversation with Amazon is pretty exciting. But we have to reach out into the community and understand what's going on. What could Slalom provide us? What could other companies, CB, provide us? Because we might think we know everything. We don't, right? We really don't. Let's be honest with ourselves. And the last one is generational. I joked about the millennials. Clearly, I have a 15 and 17-year-old, so I understand the world of Texas here, and that's the way it is. However, we have to make sure we connect the dots between our generations within our organization, within our space. We have people at Farmers who started who are roughly 24, 25 years old, which is great. We have people at Farmers who have 64 years of service in counting. 64 years of service. My dad is 67 years old. So my dad was 3 years old when this individual started at Farmers. To me, that's impressive. And we have many people like that. And my goal here, my statement here is, when you think of a millennial, they haven't gone through real change. I'm not trying to pick on a millennial, but they know they're digital natives. I get that. But they haven't gone through the different generations of technology and what it does to a business. Someone who's been around 40 years, 50 years, has understood that and can be a good guide to what we need to look for. You have to respect all generations. A lot of times we say it's just about the millennials. That's not true. It's about everyone. So we have to integrate generations, legacy and new, as well as the business with the supplier. And the last one on here is, again, you got to want to do your work. If you live in LA, and I assume everyone here lives in LA, everyone has sat on the 405, looked at the person to your left and right, and said, what the hell are you doing out here? Why aren't you home? Shouldn't you be doing something else? Everyone has that moment, right? I've had it. I had it on the way in today. So with that being said, when you get to work, you have to find a way to inspire your team. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to say, oh my God, why am I doing this? But you have to be inspired about your role. Whether you're actually making hot dogs or you're selling insurance products, you have to connect to the dots for your staff. A leader does that. And one of the reasons I'm so inspired about working for Farmers is not only the giving back to the community, the veterans. I lost 9 family members in the Haitian earthquake. I've gone back several times. Haiti does not have an insurance apparatus. Where my cousins passed away, it is an empty lot right now. There's nowhere for his family to go to. Now I work for a company that not only gives back and provides, but we try to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Now everyone says, well, it's insurance. Yes, it's insurance. You don't really need it until that call happens at 2 a.m. I don't want to make sure our IT team understands that, and they're inspired by that. So inspiration is extremely important, and that's the last I. And again, that goes with the evangelizing part. So my last slide, and I think I'm doing good. To answer the challenge, what we want to do is introduce something, and we've done this at Farmers, innovation of ecosystem at Farmers. I'm going to quickly go through this molecule and explain the logic behind some of these bubbles. Each one I will be able to click and show you a video, but we're not going to get into that right now because, again, I want to make sure we get back on track. So with that being said, let's go around the circle. On the top circle, you notice it says internal business and IT. There's a lot of innovation that internally we want to do, but we haven't given them an avenue to engage IT. So think of Apple, a Genius Bar. You walk up, have a conversation. We created an innovation lab, actually roughly 3 or 4 months ago, that we have this innovation lounge. You can literally schedule a meeting, there's a smart board right there, and you can have that dialogue and a couple what-if questions. And you just schedule it, and you can just do walk-ups. Historically, you have to schedule something, it takes 3 months, there's a review. If you get the right IT person, it might take 2 or 3 months. This is not an indication of Farmers, this is an indication of any company I've ever worked for. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the way you manage demand management. But there's a different way to do it. So that's the top one. Academia. Well, we're sitting at UCLA today, so this is a great example of this. We have to reach out to the academia and really find a way to upskill our individuals. So in this room, if you notice the list, there's no one working at Farmers today. Everyone's here. We have a lot of people here. But the point thing is that anyone that came here from Farmers, as an example, they didn't have to take PTO. They didn't have to act like they're sick. They literally are just called education. They're coming in as an education, right? That is the point. So we have to find a way to make sure that our people can come in and educate themselves. So again, I'm on the board with Jim and others. My goal with UCLA IS Associates and with Don and the rest is why can't UCLA be the tech incubator for Silicon Beach? Just like Stanford was for the Bay. Why not? We're competing against what, Pepperdine, Loyola Marymount? I mean, really? I mean, we're UCLA. I'm sorry, any alums in the room? One hand went up. But let's call it what it is. Let's think about the internet. Let's think about it for the ARPANET. 1968, you know the story. It pretty much bounced from here to Stanford, to Utah, to my alma mater, University of Illinois. UCLA was the starter of that. There's a proud history at this organization, at this institution. UCLA Engineering, let's be specific. But that's where we're at. We're at the test bed of that. So think about that. That's where we're at. Why can't we leverage that? Why can't we be the incubator for Santa Monica? We could. Pivotal Labs is down there. We have relationships. We're going to make that happen. It's academia. University of Farmers, all this is for nothing if our business unit doesn't understand what failure means. It's extremely important that we have to understand what failure means. Failure means definitely you make mistakes, you learn from it, you move on. I'm not saying mistakes that you just obviously could have made and you're learning from it. These are things that you have to fail fast. You have to do proof of concepts. You have to encourage the business to engage. Because if you can't fail, you're not going to succeed. The most innovative place on the world is always associated to the Bay Area. When you think about it, Silicon Beach. Where's the place that has the most bankruptcies and failures? Silicon Beach. So you have to find a way to allow people to fail, learn from it. And matter of fact, even encourage people to kind of step their toe in the water a little bit more. And Jeff Daly and the executive staff is doing that. So University of Farmers is helping us build a curriculum, partnering actually with UCLA. We have a leadership program here that we actually do that. Suppliers, can't say this enough. I've gone to India 21 times since 2005, and every time I go out there, I'm amazed, all the stuff that's going on there. And I always ask, why is it not happening on my account? This is why I get selfish as a customer. I want it. Cindy wants it. She's a CIO, but I want it first. So we're going to compete. I'm sorry, it is what it is. Deal with it. So suppliers have a lot of innovative thoughts. Why are not we picking their brains more for that? Open innovation providers, there's companies that actually come in and kind of jumpstart innovation. UCLA has programs to do that as well. Again, it's not a plug for UCLA, but it's the truth. And the last two I'll talk to is the iLab. We actually have a space where the funniest thing about this one is, this is how old school we are. We were working on the iLab, and real estate said no. And I said, well, why not? We just need a space to do. And they said that we can't rip out the carpets, and we have to have drop ceilings. It's code. It's like, okay. So one dark night, we decided to start ripping up the carpet ourselves, and we poked holes in the ceiling. And said, okay, I guess it doesn't look too bad. Now the space feels different. And the idea of this room is everything is different. If we start working with tech incubators such as Plug and Play, they will come into our office, we do a proof of concept. If we like the idea, we continue with an NDA with them. If we don't like it, we give them feedback. Does anyone know about Plug and Play? Anyone know the concept of Plug and Play? Okay, a couple people. Plug and Play is in the Bay Area, and what they do is they have this huge warehouse-like building. All these startups, they work in that space, and domain is insurance, finance, manufacturing, they have different domains. And you can sit in there, it's like the Shark Tank concept. You can say, I want to learn about IoT today. What's going on in that space? Who is doing some really cool things in that space? You sit there, they sit in front of us, and my chief technology officer, Marivi's in the room. She helps kind of incubate some of these ideas. We do thumbs ups and thumbs down. Thumbs up, it's a great idea. Come down to our lab, let's do a proof of concept. Thumbs down, that won't work in the insurance industry for these reasons. We give them feedback, and they learn from us, and we move on. From that effort, 15 of the 38 or so that we've done, we've brought into the lab. And then actually, the lab is also another place that we invite industry leaders to come in and talk to our business units. That's how we incubate the conversation. Parker Harris, the co-founder of Salesforce, was in there 3 weeks ago talking to our head of product, talking about an idea he had, right? So now we're having that conversation, we're kicking off an idea. So the iLab is that space where everyone, it is essentially free zone. It is your oasis, and the room technically is on a different VLAN and everything. So if we make a mistake, hit a button, reset the room, start the next day. So it doesn't impact the rest of the organization. We had an iLab in Toyota back in the day. My biggest mistake is I didn't segregate the systems, and we hit a button one time, and we shut down the whole office for about a day. So that was a failure moment, and I learned from it. And the last one up there is the X Lab. The X Lab stands for the Experience Lab. So everything out of the iLab, we move and promote into the X Lab. And we have agents, again, we have 40,000 of them. They come in and start tinkering in the new technology that we're thinking about using and get their feedback. Because the one thing I learned at Toyota is something called Genshi Genbutsu, go look, go see. You have to go see, and you have your customers come in to touch it in real time. Because the one thing we do as technologists, we build it, we get excited, and then we realize that the business unit 3 months later have Frankensteined it. Because it's working for the way they found it to be needful. Everyone remember the show MacGyver? Yeah, they do that. Bubble gums, Band-Aids, they make it work. Then all of a sudden there's compliance issues and all that. So we have to be engaged. So that's what the X Lab does for us. So with this is my last slide. I talk kind of fast to get us back on time. I'm going to open up for any questions. Bhupesh, is that fair? Yeah, that's fine. Any questions from the audience? And then we'll go on to the next speaker. So that's all I have. Oh, wait. Chris, I think I do have one more thing. Oh, yeah. Audio? So this is the inspirational part. And the reason I put this up, and I was close with it, is that everyone in IT has to understand the business value. We are the Wizard of the Oz behind the Wizard of Oz, when you think about it. We're so back office sometimes, we don't know why we're doing something. So we have to connect the dots as leaders for our people. We have to educate our people and give them that opportunity. And my proudest moment is when someone actually leaves my organization and they're successful somewhere else, and we have a chat over coffee and how great they're doing. Some of you in the room know that feeling. It's a great feeling. One of them actually is the CIO of the Port of LA. Used to work for me, used to work at Molina, and she's now the CIO there. So for me, that was one of those proud moments. So it's not only about retaining your people, you got to let them flourish and go. So with that being said, I'll answer any questions you have. Yes, Don?
Mark, could you talk a little bit about when you get an idea into the experience lab, how you take it from proof of concept and scale it into production?
Great question. So we work with, I won't say the company, Ford. It's an Accenture brand. We actually have this incubate, ideate, and then we deploy. There's a cycle that we provide. And what we do is we partner with the business and provide seed funding, just like we're a venture capital. We seed fund, like VR, we did this. We seed funded it, the first couple $100,000 or so, and then the business saw a use case. And once the business has a use case, their job for the next fiscal year is to build the funding to make sure that moves into production. Because I know what really kills things, and there's a finance guy in the room, and my degree is actually in economics and finance, so I understand you have to follow the dollar and provide the dollars, right? So we do the seed funding, they have a business stakeholder, and then we go into the next year and we roll it out into production. We POC in different areas. So one example of that is something called Signal. It's a mobile app, and it's the way that when you're driving, you know, other companies have the little plug-in, right? You know, people know that plug-in, right? I won't say the name of the brand. They plug it in. The problem with that, though, the challenge, it doesn't identify distracted driving. And I have a problem with distracted driving myself, personally. I know I have that issue. So with that being said, we have an app right now, it's called Signal, and we're testing in one state, Arizona, and it actually does everything the accelerometer does on the one plug-in, but it also provides how many times are you looking at your phone, how many times are you actually moving it, all that. And it's actually rolled out, it's actually going really well, the agents are using it, and our goal here is that if you actually use it, you sign up for it, and you have a score, you can get up to 13% discount on your insurance, on auto insurance if you go well. Me, with a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old that are both driving now, studies show that 30% of kids who realize that they're being monitored have better driving habits. So it's a given. So that's one of the things. Yes, Jim?
Great presentation, Ron. I think we both did a great job.
We did.
But what you just talked about, I think, is really another transition, and you've got my interest in that, and it's around using data and having those conversations. In that particular case, which I think is really innovative, using data to change the habits of a driver to incent a different behavior.
Yes.
And I think, and I'm wondering your opinion, it seems like if I know more about my habits, can I get better deals on my insurance, or will it incent me behavior in other aspects of insurance as well?
Yes.
For example, so it sounds like as a CIO, you've got to drive that kind of thinking and get us beyond where I get my transition is we spend too much time on devices and systems and not enough on the data.
No, correct.
And are you seeing that transition?
We are. We are. One of the reasons we partnered with Salesforce is the Einstein relationship now with Watson. So we want it where the agent is a lot more informed about what the customer and policyholder does. The other thing, though, is we actually have now launched drone technology. I don't know if you saw the commercials, where we will go over a damaged area. We just did this in Texas, actually 2 weeks ago, it was on the news there. And just want to let you know, there's something called insurance fraud. It happens. And what it does, it actually can study the rooftop and can tell if it's a strike from hail or if it's a ball peen hammer strike. The technology is that good, you can tell the difference. And what has happened in the past, again, is that people have a slight bit of damage, and they go on the roof and they just finish it off. So the drones could actually identify the differences there. Now, I'm not saying that's the norm, but it does happen. So we're using that technology and that data to actually provide to the underwriting team, so when they underwrite in an area, they learn more too. At the end of the day, it's all about the data. I understand that. We're actually double downing on that. The last one is IoT, by the way. We're actually looking at smart sensors to literally turn off your water heater. So when you're on vacation, you forgot to turn off the toilet or whatever happened. You come home, there's a flood. Most of our water claims are from those experiences. So we want to shut off the valve through IoT devices. So we're partnering with companies that we learn at Plug and Play. How can we do that better? And we have a couple of use cases in place right now. So if you think insurance is boring and like, what? It's different. It is exciting. So that's my recruitment statement. A lot of opportunities. JPL, that's yeah, they're going to the moon, Mars. Whatever. Anyway. Good luck with that. Well, thank you, Bhupesh. Thank you.
I just want to thank Ron for an inspiring speech.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So Ron is also a board member for UCLA Associates. So we're just fortunate to have, great leaders in the community be also part of the board members. So thank you, Ron, very inspiring. And you did talk about the innovation part and why UCLA cannot do it. We actually did form, as part of UCLA IS Associates just last year, headed by Trent from Stalham, and he's a board member too. It's called the Corporate Innovation Lab. So we just kickstarting that. It's a lot of ideation going on. So if anybody wants to hear what we're doing in context of the Corporate Innovation Lab, talk to Trent, who's out there. Some great case studies that he's already working on, and hope to take it to the next level. So with that, we're going to go into a break for 20 minutes and come back with the rest of the speaker presentation. Thank you. Doug, just we do this member thing. Doug's gonna come and Doug, should we get going? So while people are trickling in, we're ringing the bell out there. I'm sure people are hearing that. I'm going to introduce Doug. Doug Getz, did I pronounce the last name right? Okay. Is the vice president of Fox Group. Doug leads our membership committee on the board, and we always do this called Member Minute, where we like to introduce who's in the audience, what companies are there, so you get to know each other. So Doug, take over for a few minutes.
Okay. So I'm the rabble rouser. Hopefully people will come back in. I'm Doug Getz. I'm from Fox, and Fox has been a member for many, many, many years, and I'm happy to be the membership chair on the board. And this organization, from a member perspective, it's all about you. It's all about the companies, but it's all about the people who come to the meetings from the company and get the value. And we want to make sure that everybody gets the maximum value from the membership. So one of the things that I like smart people. I like hanging around smart people. I work with a lot of smart people, but when I get to come here, I get to hang around with different smart people. And what I like is getting feedback and input on things that people are doing at the different companies. So one of the things we're going to do is just going to run through quickly who's here, and I always ask folks to just kind of raise your hand, give a shout out, make a funny noise, whatever, just so as I go through the companies, so that you can look around the audience and see who else is here and maybe connect and have an interesting conversation. So one of the things that Ron talked about is driving innovation and using technology to drive innovation. If anybody wants to come up and talk to me after, particularly a non-member who might be interested in learning more about IS Associates, one of the things that we're doing at Fox is we are trying to change our culture and innovate and help people think differently. And in order to do that, we're giving them new, younger social tools. So for the last, big part of my job is customer facing and user support. So a big part of my job is embracing my inner 20-year-old for the last couple of months, and we're rolling out Slack, Zoom, Quip, Trello. So if you don't know what any of those words mean, come and talk to me. Because when you use those things, you think differently, and that's the point. We want our people to think differently. So I've got a bunch of people in here now, so let's just give the shouts. I'm going alpha this time. Last time I went reverse alpha, so I'll start with Aerospace Company. All right.
Doug, you may have some folks still outside.
Bhupesh's evil plan is for me to just keep going. It's like, he just wants us to get the people in here. So
If you yell loud enough, they'll hear it in the lobby.
you people out there, come in. Come in now, I'm talking. Okay. All right, so Aerospace Company, I see Kevin there, but he's on his device. Welcome. American Homes for Rent. Steve was here. Yep. Aptio. Nope. Avery Dennison. I know. All right. Yeah. Awesome. CEB, thank you. You were a great speaker. CGI Technologies. Yay. Commercial Programming Systems. I know we saw Phil. All right. City of Los Angeles. Okay. Creative Artists Agency. All right. Hey, in the back. Delphix. All right. Back there, too. And Ernst & Young, we're so happy to have Ernst & Young back in the house, rejoined as a member. Yay, good to see you again. And Farmers Insurance, Ron, great talk. And a whole bunch of you guys, hope you like this. I know Farmers is also a new member, so come on back. Fox Entertainment Group, that's me. And who else do we have? All right, Nicholas. And Envision Consulting. We have Brenda here, okay. And iSpace. Carol, come in. Hi, I see you back there too, also. And Jet Propulsion Laboratory. All right. All right, good turnout. LA Care Health Plan. All right, hey. And Laserfish. All right. And Lionsgate. Okay, awesome. And Magenic. All right, hey guys. And Marulo Group, speaker. Oh, here you are, right here. Next. Welcome. Thank you for speaking. And they're a guest of ours, Molina Healthcare. All right, the usual big turnout from Molina. Thanks for coming. UletteOnline.com. Hello. All right, and Paraveda Solutions. All right, welcome. Hi, guys. And Qantas Airways. We have a guest in the house from Qantas. Okay, nope, didn't come. Rimini Street. Okay. And Scowcroft Consulting, a guest. Welcome. Glad to have you. And Slalom Consulting. All right. And Snapchat. Did we get a guest from Snapchat? Okay. Society for Technical Communication, another guest. Didn't make it. Okay. Sony Pictures Entertainment. All right. Welcome. And Southern California Edison. Susan was here. Yeah. Okay. T5 Data Centers. Not here today. Tech Systems. And Toyota Motor Sales. Okay. Winding down here at the end, but this will be a good one. UCLA. It's always a ringer. Okay. And the Walt Disney Company. Hi, guys. And William O'Neill. Okay, so that's my minute in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, which they always hassle me about. But thanks, everybody, for coming. Hopefully you saw somebody that you want to talk to, engage, connect, network, get the value. Thanks for coming.
So not to lose any more time, I want to welcome Steve Delavin from Murillo Group, CIO. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Great presentations. Before this one, I think I want to go to work for Ron. Really inspiring presentation, very exciting place to work, say farm, or farmers. Farmers, sorry, oops. Oops. So my presentation today is really kind of my journey, more of a reflection on how I've seen and experienced transformation and change across different organizations and with IT, but more at a personal level, more at the individual, how change impacts leaders, how it impacts the human spirit, how it impacts the business and all of those types of things. So I want to take you through that journey. It's going to be more of a reflection than kind of a 30,000-foot futuristic kind of view. So let's talk through that. So I want to take you through my background real quick. So I grew up in Boise, Idaho. I went to school at Boise State University, and that's great. And then joined EDS in 1984 down in Dallas, Texas, when Ross Perot was still running the company. I was assistant engineer there. I then went to work for Bachman Information Systems, and they were, I don't know if you, I think a few of you might remember, but case vendor, where we did modeling. We did data and process modeling back in the day to understand how the business worked and the information we used. I then went to work for Taco Bell and the PepsiCo organization in Irvine, Orange County, and then they became Yum Brands once they got spun off. And this was a really awakening for me. The organization in PepsiCo, they really invested in their people. They spent a lot of time developing their people in terms of management development, people development, technology development, all of those things. Then I actually, my first real senior leadership role, I went to work for one of the divisions of PepsiCo, Chevy's Mexican Restaurants, and ran the IT organization there in a casual dining. It was a casual dining restaurant chain. I don't know if who remembers Chevy's. It was based out of San Francisco. The next was I did a startup. I was the CIO for MySize.com during that 1999, right at the bubble. Very entrepreneurial experience. It was a great experience. spent a year there, and then of course the money dried up, and that was the end of that. So next, I actually joined Sony Pictures Entertainment. That was around 2000, and became the divisional CIO for the corporate and financial groups. And then after several years there, I moved on to London for Sony and worked in London for 5 years, supporting and looking after IT for London and all of Europe. I came back from Europe and did some consulting stints with Alvarez & Marsal and at Fox. And then about 2.5 years ago, I became the CIO at Morello Group. And I'm going to take you through Morello Group here in short order. But Morello Group is a family-owned private equity conglomerate, and very different environment than any of those other experiences that I had in the past. So Morello Group, it's a family of companies. Two Cuban guys, actually back in the early 80s, out of Downey, started a restaurant chain, and then they grew that into a little over $1 billion conglomerate. So here's some of the things about Morello Group, the different verticals. So first and foremost, we have a casino in Reno. It's called the Grand Sierra. It was the old MGM. Huge casino and gaming property. We have 6 different construction companies. So this is heavy commercial construction, electrical, underground, you name it. And these are all scattered all over Southern California. We own a food distribution company called Fujisan, which is actually sushi, fresh sushi, that distributes and white labels to Costco and Trader Joe's and all of those grocery chains. Over 1 million units a month actually go out from Fuji, and that's based here in Southern California as well. Alex Morello owns a community bank here, Commercial Bank of California as well. So next was actually the restaurant chain called La Pizza Loca that they originally started their company with. And then to add more to the confusion, just to mix it up a little bit, they also own television broadcasts and radio stations. And then a large property management portfolio, so commercial property. The one big one is Pacific Court in downtown Long Beach, but a whole over 500 properties, actually. So what do you do with that? Right? So that was the challenge, and actually that was the question. You know, where do you start? And as I came into the role, it was all about understanding what kind of change or need for change this organization needed, or these businesses needed, and working in a very entrepreneurial private equity environment, which is very different than the Fortune 500's environments that a lot of us have work in or have experience with. So lots of different industries and verticals. Where do you find the synergy? Where shouldn't you find the synergy, right? Different types of leadership, all of those things. So this is, I think, you know, we talk about change, we talk about innovation, we talk about it a lot at the 30,000-foot level, but how do we get our IT people to actually see it and understand it and be aware of it, and then develop a strategy to, you know, to adapt to it or influence it, right? So I don't teach that a lot in IT organizations, because part of building a great strategy is understanding the change that's happening to you or the change that you need to make, that the business needs, all of those kinds of things. So it's understanding and identifying that change at a personal level, at a human, your team, your senior team, and the business partners that you have in the organization, the presidents. I've got 15 presidents that I face off with every day. So crafting a strategy for change and transformation at Morello Group. I know this is going to sound kind of plain Jane and kind of basic, but these are the things I was taught when I was growing up. I had a great mentor at Taco Bell, and she taught me how to identify and look at an organization and understand the types of changes you need to make. Her name is Susan Cram, by the way. I don't know if you, anybody here know Susan? Yeah, a few. So you don't know what you don't know. So tactically, I came into the organization and needed to understand what was needed, right? So taking a shot at the leadership and key stakeholders, engaging those the ownership. So they never really had, the two owners never had really a senior technology guy to collaborate with. Everything had been very pragmatic, very practical type of environment for these guys. And technology, quite honestly, for them was a cost, and they just saw it as a cost. Not very forward-thinking. Growth was about acquisitions. So, learning the business, seeking to understand, engaging the owners, and at a level that I could build a relationship at, right? So it's all about no promises and just listening and fact-finding. What are the big issues? What does the business need? Trying to understand what's going on across all those verticals and, across the enterprise. And find as much data as you can get wherever you can find it. As well, going through that process, it was really, really quickly understanding who the presidents were champions of IT and who were not, right? So who were those neophytes that really didn't get it? And in the construction world, believe it or not, there hasn't been significant technology innovation in these large construction firms. So they're really operating back in the 1980s, perspective. So along with understanding and building relationships with the presidents of the companies, you also do your homework on the basics, right? The operations side of it. And how do you build your roadmaps across the business environment? So understanding kind of what's the organizational maturity for the business divisions and the IT team. So I needed to go in and understand how those businesses operated and the maturity of those businesses, as well as really where was the technology and the IT teams as well, right? In terms of policy and governance, decision making, and the risk profile, right? How much risk would they stand for? Understanding the technology landscape, right? Taking inventory of the entire stack, from facilities, core infrastructure, network, all across those categories. And then next was, okay, how do you really get to know all these people and understand the people in the organization of IT and getting to know those folks so that you can, so you can inspire them, like Ron spoke to. So when I walked in, and after doing a lot of that work, what I really found was that the common theme was Morello was a wait for it to break, highly entrepreneurial environment, meaning they didn't, there wasn't a lot of planning, and there wasn't a lot of investment, and there wasn't a lot of budgeting in terms of IT spend. And cost was a significant item, and you pretty much needed to justify every aspect of spend to the owners. And they had they're close to every dime. They're looking at every P&L and looking at every dollar. So how do you formulate an approach to get them to see what kind of investment you need to make? How do you get them moving out of that wait for it to break reactive mode into a more planful, hey, if we spend a bit more every year in a planful way, how do we can move the organization forward? We can start innovating processes. We can start minimizing the risk to the organization, because there was a lot of risks in terms of data security and network access and all the security issues that you come into. And so that's actually what happened. Was I had to lay out a plan that showed the ownership that with a little bit more spend in the right areas, you could minimize those risks and actually start talking about innovation, process improvement, better efficiencies, all of those things that are basics, but it was understanding. I had to do this evaluation, go through this process, work with my IT teams as well to prepare them for these changes. And it was all about getting them to prepare for more growth, because that's what I kept hearing from all of the senior folks, was we're going to acquire 2 more companies, we're going to expand. The construction businesses have actually expanded 40% in the last 2 years, so lots of growth. So how do we move them out of that reactive mode and into a more planful mode? Oops. So part of this was getting my IT teams invigorated and energized and believing that they could make change happen in the organization. And so part of it was actually getting the owners to spend money, right? Demonstrating that we could invest, we could make changes, we could make the world better for the businesses. And to do that, it's all about aligning your folks around common goals and understanding everyone's strengths and weaknesses and what they bring to the plate. The other, thing that I saw in the organization was very top-down, command and control type decision making. So I got my IT teams to actually develop, collaborative ways of understanding the goals that they needed to accomplish, to plan, and to delegate ownership of that process. Focus on the what and not so much the how. I know that's a basic, but we as IT folks tend to really like to spin on the how and not really get clear with the business on the what. What's the goal? What's the objective? What is winning for each of those different organizations? And across Morello Group, everybody had a different what. And I think, investing in these teams, so I had to spend a lot of time with the IT teams. I think this is, the thing that great IT leaders do is they inspire and they use empathy and intuition to do that. They understand, everyone's different, and so you have to be flexible in leading these people and guiding them in terms of mentorship and training and all of those things. And that takes a lot of time and patience and emotional investment on your part. And we don't see that as much anymore. So listen and lead from the back, empower and coach, and really identify those players that are going to take you to the next level and inspire them to do that. And I believe in practice with practical techniques. So it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually give people techniques to do it, right? To learn how to collaborate, be empathetic, bring people together to come up with the great ideas, coaching them and providing them with those techniques to do that. And the last bit is, we as leaders, we tend not to communicate the structure and accountability of their careers. So it's more like random chance that people are going to move from here to there to, in terms of their IT career or in the business. So bringing structure to your team on what their path can be, what the opportunities can be, and making sure that they take ownership of that so that they can grow and become better professionals. So that's, in a nutshell, the work that I've been doing over the last 2.5 years at Morello Group. Building the team, preparing the organization for further growth, and in fact, I think we've just acquired a couple more companies, putting all of the core pieces in place to prepare for that growth.
Steve, I have a question. So did you bring leaders from outside, or just more of, bring the leaders from inside with the mix, or?
A little bit of both. So I think it's great to bring some folks in from outside that are going to help you, solve for some of the challenges that you're not going to have the experience or you don't have the skills in-house to do. A lot of this was blocking and tackling, and educating the owners that if they want to become a $5 billion company, these are the kinds of things you're going to need to do to prepare yourself for that. Right, so Morello Group is really preparing, mitigating, minimizing the risk profile because there was a lot of risk, and putting things in order so that the operation was running and ready to step up for that next casino.
What was the trigger point or inflection point that they said we need a CIO to run these number of brands or businesses? Why at this time? Why now?
I think they had a number of directors and senior managers of IT and autonomous little IT teams across all these businesses, right? And they were getting to the point where literally critical mass. They were the owners were kind of hearing the same spend for the same different same spend, different company, and I don't think I think they realized there was no cohesive viewpoint on how to leverage technology like across the construction firms. There were literally every firm was doing their own thing.
So you had all these distributed IT teams. Are you centralizing more? Are you trying to come up with more standardized technologies across the industries, or are you really finding that construction's so construction, it's not stepping on the others?
So that's kind of the sweet spot, right? It's like, where does the vertical begin and end, and where does the enterprise begin and end? And where do what should be leveraged, and coming up with a strategy that says, hey, so unified messaging was, one of the common enterprise strategies. Hosting of your business applications. Some pretty straightforward stuff, but again, these guys had never had anybody articulate that kind of roadmap, right? And what the benefits and cost savings could be if we went there. And they really liked the idea. I mean, it was, that we could have a common voice over IP phone system across all of these different companies, and they could do 4-digit dialing to whoever they needed to do. That was just one little example of a win, right? But again, this is a $1 billion private equity firm growing up through little baby companies, not very sophisticated, not very mature, right? But wanting to go to the $3 billion level, right? And so you have to seed these kinds of things so they can see the leverage.
Given the cost, Steve, and the disparity challenges of your business model, can you talk a little bit about leveraging cloud-based solutions across all of those businesses?
So, you have to find your wins, right? And so in the construction business, there was a couple things we did. So most of the construction industry is still very paper-based, especially heavy commercial construction. And this is a whole new industry for me. So I'm 2 years into understanding construction businesses, right? But some basics that that apply. So collecting field information daily, right? Perfect opportunity. In other words, we're doing the LA Crenshaw job, right? We're building the above rail. and putting in electrical systems. It's an 8.5-mile job, 60 feet wide, and it's a 5-year job, right? So how do you set up technology to support all of the CAD and diagrams that need to be every day updated and revised between the subcontractors and the general contractor to make all that work? Well, if you can get some wireless networking cooking, that was a great opportunity to apply that technology, cloud computing, and synchronizing all of that content, between the engineers on the ground and the general contractor back at the head office. Because that's what happens, is they have 20,000-foot diagrams of what they think this should look like, and then when the engineers actually get on the ground and they're building it, they revise those diagrams and send those changes back up to the GC. So cloud computing, we put heavy-duty tablets, and there's technology out there actually that allows you to do this with CAD and PDF and Adobe and all of those types of files. Before they were all on paper, and they were walking back and forth to look at those diagrams and there was like 8 books that they would be revised every day. Great big binders. So anyway, that's an example.
So in terms of aligning your folks around common goals, how much did you have to sort of move the chess pieces or sort of realign, move people around to really get where you were hitting on their strengths and sort of moving them out of their places?
So some of your organizations, you guys well know, there's going to be the players that, we all, I think for the most part, IT people love change. They want to make change, right? Maybe not so sure why, but we get excited about doing it. So there's those players that you just need to direct and make sure that the objectives and the goals, align to the business, what the business is asking for, or what the business needs. And then there's some that, you're going to need to probably, move out of the organization. They're not going to embrace it that way. I actually shifted, probably about 10% of the different IT groups in terms of individuals across the different industries to mix it up. So let me keep going here. So I had to throw this in. I know this is old school, but just my career. I mean, I started at EDS, which was, assembler and COBOL, in a very regimented, very militaristic environment.
I don't know how much that cost.
Ross Perot, billions, right? And moved through. So we as technologists have seen, not only, business transformation and all the change that happens in an organization, but we've seen so much technology change. It's pretty amazing in the last 30 years how much we've moved through. To live through this and work and lead in an organization, that's a big deal. So that was Morello Group. Now I just wanted to really kind of give some other examples of change that we've seen, that I've experienced. And like I said, I was at Sony Pictures for 11 years, and I joined around 2000, late 2000, 2001. And the CIO that came in then, and Cindy's going to remember this because Cindy was leaving the organization at the time. And there's a few people who are going to remember this. But anyway, there was a lot of challenges, especially in the entertainment business, because when I came into the entertainment business, I'd come from organizations like PepsiCo and Taco Bell, where IT investment was huge. It was a penny profit business, and so technology investment was first and foremost. There was no question with the leadership on why they should invest. Entertainment back then was just the opposite. Every studio spent very, very little money on IT. It was very back office and archaic almost. So when I got to Sony, this was kind of a, kind of blow it up and reassemble kind of situation. which the CIO drove when he came in. He was brand new. So there was a lot of things that were broken, lack of project delivery, centralized IT, physically apart from the users, everything we were seen as back office. The biggest thing that came through was credibility. IT did not deliver anything. So I won't say anything, but it was a lack of delivery. So what we did was align around a strategy. The strategy was credibility. How do we build credibility? And again, very pragmatic stuff, but this is what we did. We aligned the IT teams around the business divisions. We put in a level of governance and project management capabilities. We defined a greenlighting approach that ensured the investments were high-value investments with lots of benefit, right? Created an architecture group. We co-located all of the application development and analysts to each business unit. We started developing those roadmaps for infrastructure, and the mantra was credibility every single day, whether that was fixing an incident, and triaging an incident, or delivering a project. And when you start doing that, the people start responding. Both the business and your IT teams really start. They like working there. If you're delivering, people enjoy it. So after credibility, then repeatability, and finally service maturity, where we're doing things that were consistent every day. And all of this was in preparation for what the studio business has been, went through the 2000s, right? So we talk about digital transformation. Well, the studios went through this from 2000 to 2010. That whole decade, the entire media industry or entertainment industry transformed itself, right? From physical analog media to digital media and files. And that changed every workflow you could identify, every workflow. And I know a lot of you lived through that. It was pretty exciting times. So looking at that, the digital transformation. So again, identifying what's going on. So this was this is change that was affecting us, right? Our technology was affecting the entire business value chain. So it was all about just trying to keep up. The business was changing right out from under our feet. So production, how we actually produced film, post-production, marketing, sales, fulfillment, and distribution. Again, all of those areas were completely changed. The process. So the transformation that was going on here was about process innovation, because technology drove a completely new way of doing all those things. And with digital transformation, it was about providing context of what those things were, what those files meant, what that content meant. So metadata was king, because I remember we had to build a global product master of our catalog when Sony acquired the MGM catalog, and it had never been done. I think I need some water real quick. And of course, every asset needed to be shared and a new integrated workflows developed. And what a lot of this did was actually build our opportunity to grow internationally and grow the business globally. The next big project that I kind of wanted to step back from, was the Global Financial Systems Replacement, which was Project STAR, which was basically a financial implementation for the organization. This one, this type of change was really about changing the accounting team and the financial organization. So we had all these disparate accounting groups. They spent most of their time doing keying transactions. And the CFOs wanted to move to more of an analytical financial analysis type competency for their organization. And so to do that, they used systems to drive that. I think when I got there, we had let's see, 39 legacy accounting systems. I think there was 23 domestically and 13 internationally. So everybody wanted to do this project, but none of the divisional CFOs would even get in the room together and talk about it. And so they wanted IT to drive all this. And I kind of stepped back and said, until the CFOs actually get together and agree on what the goal is, we shouldn't move forward. And that was a hard message. This was that more aggressive stance that you need to take with your businesses, and really have the hard talk and say, you guys need to figure this out. We can put in a system, but if you need to be aligned around the goal to do that. And so it did come to fruition, and we rolled out one of the largest IT projects in SBA's history, and consolidated all of those systems into one big global SAP instance. And of course, probably the thing I remember most about this project was I had to find a warehouse to put 150 consultants, IBM and consultants to bring them all together. And it was right next to the television production of Vegas. I don't know if you remember back then, there was a TV show. So we shared the warehouse with the production team of Vegas. Last but not least, around 2005, I moved to London because of all that growth that was happening internationally. We had about 13 offices when I got there. We had it was a very small IT team, and we had a few technicians spread across 13 territory offices. There was really no IT organization there to service the business. So the infrastructure was all distributed. Everybody had a data closet or a data center spread about. No real network capacity or integrated network. Of course, we had, which was a real twist for me personally, was working with all of these different territories and all these different cultures and languages and facing off to the theatrical business in France or the Italians. So we knew what was coming. I was sent there to get the organization ready for growth. So that was kind of the call to arms. So this kind of change was, hey, we need to build this out and do it quickly and less collaboratively to be ready for the growth that was happening. And that's what we did. So I had to really step up and put together a team that would support that growth, put in all the basics in terms of help desk and infrastructure talent, recruit a whole set of application teams and development teams and business analysts, and make sure there was good relationships back to the mothership in LA. Develop, of course, roadmaps for the infrastructure path. We centralized hosting to London, virtualized almost everything. And we were starting to send terabytes of data across the pipe to all the production companies in Europe. And so we had to find a way to do that as well. So once we got there, we rolled out a European-wide distribution system for home entertainment. We rolled out the rest of Project Star for Europe. And we rolled out a theatrical distribution system called Spirit World. All of those were huge global platforms that drove significant process change to the international territories. And whether they liked it or not, it was coming, and they needed to be ready for it. And we went from 13, 14 offices to 33 offices by the time I left. And we built a shared service center. Melanie was a part of that for the financial group. So again, here, change was all about being ready about growth. Questions? So wrapping it up, key takeaways. We need to adapt and what's influencing the change. So we need to understand it, identify it, and build a strategy for it. And that doesn't come natural. I mean, I don't know if it's natural for all of you, but it wasn't natural for me. So coming up with a way to identify change and a strategy to affect it is the magic, right? So first key takeaway as an IT leader, have a plan. Take inventory, take stock of all of these things: culture, people, processes, the technology landscape. Always be respectful of the organization's past and the decisions that were made before you. That's always key. When fact-finding, assume innocence and go to the source. So don't take anybody's word for it. Go to the source. As an IT leader, you get to choose where you leave your mark, right? And a lot of us are very focused on leaving our mark on the business. And some of us are more focused on leaving our mark on our people. And I've always tried to do both, but I'm kind of the people guy. I like the things that I remember is how I, as a leader, have influenced people and their growth. And I think Ron said it best, is the best feeling in the world is when you see someone who's grown their career, moved on to bigger and better opportunities, and have become great leaders themselves. And I see that every day. And that's a great feeling. So impacting your team on the business, impacting your team, or both. As an IT leader, you need to always continue to reflect on yourself and reflect how change has affected you. Being flexible, adapting your style, seeing yourself in a new light after being in this business for 30-some years, which many of us have been. You kind of got to reinvent yourself every day a little bit, and be inspiring to yourself as well as to your teams. Because there's all kinds of, the new generation, the boomers, Xers, millennials, leading your colleagues takes a lot of flexibility and a lot of emotional investment. And enjoy the journey. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I'd say. So the last presenter for today is Cindy McKenzie. She's the CIO for Deluxe Entertainment. Cindy, I think everybody knows Cindy. No introductions. And come on. Cool. So a couple more sentences before you start, Cindy. Cindy was a board member at UCLA IS Associates, led chair. So it's great to have you back as a speaker. Cindy has been in many executive positions in the entertainment industry in Sony, Fox, and now at Deluxe. So thank you, Cindy.
Great.
Spend time.
Is there where's the clicker?
Yep.
Oh, I'm not up. Okay, so I think mine will tie in very much with the speakers before. So hopefully will make sense as an ending here. So I've been at Deluxe, I think, 10 months now, or 11. Not that I'm counting moments, days, and minutes, but I think I am. Our transformation's really been around transforming IT as quickly as we can to fuel a digital transformation that we're in the midst of. So, sorry, why am I not going? I'm pushing the button. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Deluxe, for those who don't know us, and the entertainment companies will, talk about a company that was disrupted, and this goes to what Steve said. Deluxe was a physical film lab. So Deluxe and Technicolor were the two major film labs. They did not have to sell. They didn't have to do anything. They just printed money, right? Everybody who had a movie came and said, copy and distribute my movie, and there were 2 players. So there really was nothing there, in terms of sales organization or any of those things. They were a huge cash cow. And thank God they got ahead of the curve, and when the film distribution completely went away very, very quickly and moved to digital, they had survived by buying a bunch of companies. When I got there, they have 30 different companies, 30 different brands under the umbrella, very similar to Steve. There are similarities, there are also differences, but it really was this whole, let's just acquire everything in the post-production business and we'll be everything to everyone. But and the goal now, obviously, is to have an end-to-end digital distribution platform. So this is hard to see. It's our marketing slide, but the takeaway is here is all the brands, and literally our brands compete against each other, or did 6 months ago. So we'd have one brand bidding on a job with Sony, and the other brand would bid against it at different pricing, which is a little nuts. We're in 12 countries, so we're global, 7,400 people, not farmer size, but not teeny. And we own a big portion of the business that we do. We're one of the biggest providers in the post space, and all the large studios, Netflix, Amazon, et cetera, use our services. So this is, we really are an end-to-end service provider. So everything from the time the movie's shot or the TV show's shot, we do visual effects, we do color, we do all of those services. Then we do all the transformation to all the different formats, distribution. We do digital cinema. We do IP broadcasting. We do over-the-top services, like Stars is actually us. So we have pretty much anything that you can think of in the post-production space, we have as part of what we do. And the idea being a customer can come in and really get any of the services that they need to do to get their content out the door, distributed to platforms, et cetera. So the industry continues to change exponentially. Entertainment, and you all know it because you consume it, right? And you know how you consume differently than you used to. And so increased content globally. There was a study, I think it's FX Networks, that between 2009 and today in the US, the amount of content that's delivered per year has doubled. So, and if you think about it, DirecTV produces content, Hulu produces content, Amazon produces, everybody produces content. And so, the amount of that content is exponential, thereby obviously affecting us. A number of formats, same thing. Everybody expects to get their content on any device that they're on. All those devices, all those platforms require different content formats. The big one that's affecting us right now, probably by far the biggest, is increased globalization of content. And what that's about is the concept that, and I'll use Amazon because Amazon's the one most driving the business with us right now. And so what used to happen when Amazon would deliver content in another country, they would deliver it in English. They weren't making that language specific in the country. And earlier this year, they decided they were going to take every piece of content that they had, either current or catalog, and put that out in the language. And if you think about that, that's not just systems. That's how do I find translators who can do, Hindi to English, or and in some of the countries, getting the talent is actually the issue. Is how do I get the languages? Changing standards constantly change in media and entertainment. Right now we're dealing with things like 4K, 8K, IMF, which is a packaging format standard that's affecting us very, very much right this minute. And all of those things just kind of happen, and we have to react to those. And then the other big one that's affecting us is probably decreasing windows. And so that's actually something we're trying to get ahead of right now. So you can think about it both in terms of the windows for theatrical releases, and there's a lot of discussion. Actually, there's been a lot in the paper over the last month about the fact that everybody expects us to move to day and date. So, and I personally, I don't know about anybody else, I would much rather see my content at my house and pay $50 than go to the theater. And so, you know, that window, shutting down those windows, and the same thing is, as you know, TV's the same thing. You know, you used to watch a series, you know, every day. Now the content on OTT providers is released in a day, right? And so if you think about how somebody who's a servicer of content, how all of this change affects us, it's exponential, right? And so how much content we had to get out for the same providers, now we have to do it, you know, X million different ways and with more content, et cetera. So, you know, I put this in because this is what I feel like my life is, right? I'm changing the tire while the car is moving. And so, you know, what the issue is here is, right, all those things are happening in the industry, right? And at the same time, you know, we got a new CEO 18 months ago, John Wallace. And John Wallace came from NBCU. NBCU is a GE company. He started there as a page. And his first job other than NBCU is Deluxe. Deluxe is a lot like Murillo Group, right? We bought 30 companies. We never integrated them. There's a huge amount of technical debt. And he thinks, and still to this day, I keep trying to convince him. I spend more time trying to convince him what the size of what he just asked for is, because he thinks he can do it just like he did at NBCU, which was a lovely, homogenized, you know, mature organization. And, you know, he asked for something simple, and nothing's ever simple at Deluxe. And so not only are we dealing with all of this, how do I deal with this hugely increased content? We were actually turning away business 6 months ago because we could not process globalization, that whole globalization, subtitling, dubbing, and compliance formatting, which is, you know, in certain countries, you have to take out certain kinds of content. That whole business was just craziness, and we were turning away work right and left. And so John, you know, came from a studio, so he saw everything from a customer perspective, right? Because he used to be a customer of Deluxe's, which is lovely, right? He's very customer journey centric. And then as well, he just wanted to change us to be a digital platform company. But he wants to do that tomorrow. At the same time, we're trying to produce all this content out the door with a huge amount of technical debt. It's a fun ride. And so really we've spent a lot of time on, you know, how can we do this? And I don't think this was supposed to be the next slide, but, you know, a lot of it's been around, did I skip one? Okay. How do we do our products in a smaller way, right? And so this whole, you know, minimal viable product thing, you know, how do we come up with simple solutions that meet the business needs and that we can deliver in a quicker manner? And really a lot of what we've been doing is the foundations to let us to do this, because when you're in a highly siloed, fragmented organization, you can't deliver simply elegant solutions very easily. This was a slide I thought was before. So this is really what we've spent time on. And that is putting business agility into the organization. And you know, this vision, the vision, not the practicality of it, came from the CEO, right? I need to be able to do this stuff as quickly as we can. And how do we get there as an organization? So we've put in a lot of work around how do we manage and view the market so that we understand these market changes. And so being ready for increased globalization when globalization hits, being ready to understand the format changes and be able to have the infrastructure in order to support that before it hits. As well, and I think we talked about this earlier, this issue of, is there stuff out in the market that can help us to get to where we need to get faster? We don't have to build it ourselves if it exists. So we spend a lot of time on new technology and new technology startups. And I'll give an example of that. Actually, I'll do it now. So I think week 2 I was at Deluxe. They said, we want to buy this company. Can you get involved? You know, you've done this before. Can you do the due diligence on the technical platform? And then we want to do the due diligence on how it will fit into the business. And it was a platform called Safera. It was a very small company that had built a platform that automated the localization process. I mean, everything that Deluxe was doing manually, they had automated. So all the quality control checking, all that was automated. But the really secret sauce was crowdsourcing the translation talent. So they had set up a platform that allowed translators to sign themselves up for the platform. They could take tests, and then they kept getting scored based on how many errors that they had. And then they could put their schedules in, and the system would automatically schedule them into these translation activities. And so what was a really difficult thing for us to do became a piece of cake, right? And so that change alone, and we ended up buying that, so we did move fast and we bought that company. That's what's allowed us to go from turning away the localization to work to right now. I actually just checked this. We haven't turned any work away in the last 3 months. And we would not have been able to do that if we had tried to build this. We would have been too late to the market. So, and I spend a lot of my time with the senior management team looking at products in the market that we might be able to plug and play. And it's more, what Deluxe used to buy was capability, operational capability, like creative services, et cetera. What we're buying now is technology for the most part. And I'll talk about some of the ones that we've looked at. So that's a whole loop that's happening that we have a whole group doing. We do it on a regular, honestly, a daily basis. Communication was a really big issue that we had in that, again, and I don't remember who, Steve may have said this, there wasn't an articulated business strategy. There wasn't an articulated technology strategy. And then, that whole thing about leaders versus managers, we really had managers, and we didn't have leaders, and we didn't have people who understood. We were very hierarchical, and we were very, again, siloed. And then last was really how do we build that agility into the organization, and that was really about putting together, again, when you're as siloed as we are, you cannot have an end-to-end, customer journey for production if you don't process re-engineer, right? I can't build a system that goes across 30 businesses without doing process re-engineering across 30 businesses who don't want to work together. Yeah.
So do you have it
sounds like that train was moving, right?
Yeah. But you got there and the business was ahead of IT?
No. The CEO was ahead of everyone. No one was, no. The business was just as messed up as the IT organization. And literally, I've been there 11 months. In the 11 months I've been there, every single president has changed. And we don't have, I don't know how many you said you had, 13 or something? I have 7 now. There were more. Now there are 7 presidents. So, and trying to corral them is still a large part of my job.
Okay. So, I mean, that was going to be my follow-on question, is that, if IT, there's only so fast you can go if the business doesn't go with you. And how fast are you able to go, and are you now in the leadership to make that happen?
Yes. So John sees technology, John Wallace, our CEO, sees technology as being key to what he's doing. And so he really does honestly want to, everything's driven by technology with him. And so literally, as I said, in that first decision that was being made the second week I got there, and he kind of knew me barely, right? I was sitting there making the decision as to whether we should buy that or not, right? And so at this point, there's an executive management committee. I do sit on that. So every strategy meeting that takes place, I'm in. And literally I just stopped them from buying a company last week that I just couldn't understand the business value or what the proposition was. And I just kept questioning and questioning and questioning until they gave up on it, right? And it happened to be something I knew very, very well from my studio days. So and they didn't. The only 2 studio people there are me and the CEO. So there is an interesting perspective that the people that have been on both sides of the house have, that I think sometimes the people who've only been in one side don't have. So process reengineering, we have a team that reports to me doing that across the company for all the major things. So if we're dealing with this IMF new format, which makes major changes in process, business, and technology, my team's leading that. My team led the whole Savera acquisition. My team leads, we're doing this one workflow initiative to come up with one workflow. My team runs those. The business development framework is this: how do we look at products? How are we, how are we vetting them? How are we deciding whether we bring them in? And then, even though we're bringing them in, how do we integrate them to get the value as quickly as we need? And for that one specifically, we've done, I think, a really good job of doing cross-functional teams. So these are not, again, not hierarchy, more team. So on this Safera decision and integration, there was a team that dealt with that was, me, the head of sales, legal, the development team, because we knew we wanted to make changes to the platform to be able to do more than it did, and so there was, 6 people with a, plan that we were expected to put into place the day that transaction closed. And then this is key, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. Yeah.
On the cross-functional teams,
yeah.
Who makes the decision? Is it you that recommends to the CEO, or is it the cross-functional team that says we should buy these guys, or we should not?
The cross-functional team makes the decision.
They actually make the decision?
Yeah, or makes honestly, the CEO makes the decision, but we make the recommendation to him on what they should do. And for that, for example, we just sat in meeting after meeting, week after week, and we presented him both those plans, because part of it is the whole business model on the financials was based on rolling out some new products with that team. They actually licensed their software to other providers as well as servicing. We didn't want to do that anymore because then we're bastardizing our own business. Those decisions, we had to explain why we came to the decisions we did. And so right now they're looking at buying 4 more companies, and we put together the exact same group. We're doing the same analysis. And part of what we're trying to do is templatize those processes so they're not oh, look, I have to do an acquisition. What do I do?
And how many people are in that team?
The Safera team had maybe 6. The one now probably, honestly, it's the exact same people. So it's the same exact people. And then nimble system architecture. Again, I can't impress upon you how siloed this place was. I mean, every single workflow. So if you think about one of my businesses is visual effects, and then another one of my businesses is localization. They had completely different infrastructure, completely different systems, completely different everything. And so you can't do a digital transformation like that. And so what we've come up with is a architecture framework that allows us to plug and play pieces. And because we're building it that way, not only can we plug and play specific things, like if you need render software for creative and you don't need it for delivery, you want to plug that into the overall framework. But as well, if we buy something, we can plug it in, right? We're building it in that framework. So this is just illustrative. When I got there, there was me, and there were more than this. There were all these CTOs, right? And for those who came from studios, they understand post-production. Post-production is mostly engineers by nature, because it used to be more film-based. And so they're heavy-duty engineers. And so literally every time I turned around, somebody else would walk up and say, oh, I want to meet you. I'm the CTO for so-and-so. I'm the CTO for so-and-so. I'm the head of technology for so-and-so. And John said, I hired a CIO. She's in charge. But in reality, he had all these other people and didn't really want to mandate that they went away. And so, that was my world 10 months ago. Yeah, I do have to say, using our past analogies, I was the shared services head for Fox, 13 Fox companies, more than that at one point. It was a really good learning experience for this problem, right? And so all these people existed, and again, post-production is very male-dominated, more than any other thing I've seen other than going to Cisco or something. And so, I literally, minus, people in sales and stuff, I'm the only lone woman there. And so this is what it's evolved to right now. And so what's happened, and it works really well for us, and if you see the little family analogy there, that's actually kind of true. So quickly I made friends with the head of apps engineering. He builds product. He was in the same boat as me. He ran DoD Only, which is our OTT platform. He built that. He didn't own anything else. John wanted him to take over engineering, and he wanted me to take over everything else. But he didn't want to mandate it. And so, you know, I just started taking it nicely. And that's all about relationship building, right? Oh, it'd be great if you were over here. Look at the synergies we would get. Wouldn't that be great? And, you know, I started sucking up everything I could. And so where we are now is Alan and I have come into this lovely relationship, and this is all about product and, you know, that. In my perfect world, I would do everything Alan does too, because I love building product, but I don't now. I still have apps, but I have boring corporate apps. But he can't survive without me. And honestly, I can't survive without him. And we learned that really early on. And I must talk to him every single day. I mean, he's like my work husband, hence the diagram. We then put in, literally they had the same structure internationally. We've consolidated on at, you know, kind of Cindy nicely pushing, a single head for each of the regions, and they dotted line, solid line into the region, but they dotted line into me, and I'm making that more of a solid by the moment. There's a CTO for visual effects, which that's building visual effects software. That shouldn't be anywhere but there. And then there's like one or two left of the other guys. And all the rest of them have either been sucked into Alan's organization or my organization or gone in 10 months. And honestly, the only way we could get to a standardized platform is to do that. I really do believe that. I'm not at all an empire builder, but we couldn't get to where they wanted us to get without homogenizing.
Is that a subtle optical illusion, or are you taller than your work husband?
My work husband is 6'5", and I'm 5'3". So, and actually not only are they all men, they're all tall. So, yeah.
So it sounds like, you mentioned earlier that you guys are growing through acquisition. How are you managing or balancing, rather, your time in helping those investment decisions with the KLO keeping the lights on with,
I'm not. And that's actually part of what I was trying to talk about on the car and the tire. So, and a lot of it has to do, again, with our CEO's expectations, right? I mean, swear to God, I'm in a strategy meeting every other week. And, I have a mess that I'm trying to fix. And I have people who've been here 30 years who don't know any better than what they're doing. And honestly, I need them because they have legacy knowledge. And until I replace legacy, I can't survive without a lot of them. So it's a really difficult balance. It really is. But it's kind of has to happen. Right? So you just kind of suck it up and get it done. And a lot of it's relationship building, right? So I swear to God I wouldn't be where I am right now and alive and still surviving it at Deluxe if I hadn't made some strategic, alliances. And I don't mean it in that kind of survivor alliance, but, let's work together. It's the only way we're going to get through this. And, something as simple as John decided he wanted to do performance reviews 6 weeks before he wanted them done. And he was adamant that it happened. We didn't have a system. I don't have honestly what I would consider a hardcore developer on my entire team. And John doesn't get that, right? Cindy, I want this. Can you build this? I need it. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And so I could design it. I've done 8,000, as people who know me know, I've done 8,000 HR systems. So like designing it took 10 minutes. But I called Alan and begged Alan, and Alan built it for me, right? So that whole relationship thing is really the only way this has worked. So part of what Alan and I have spent a lot of time on is communicating what we do and how things are changing and how people work together. And so already twice at these senior management meetings, we go off-site once a quarter for a week. I go to India Sunday morning to do one of these. And so I've had to redo how we work together and what our orgs do because it keeps changing as fast as we get there. So the model we put together was really this idea of, the strategy is really driven by a combination of the tech sides and the business, because we're so technology driven, you can't not have the tech side and the strategy. Then we combined this architecture and the strategy and roadmap, and then push that to the regions. Now that was different. The regions considered themselves the same as a line of business, and so we've been really pushing that they're not a line of business. They don't get the same say. They get to participate, but they got to kind of come along with everybody else. And then you can't see this, but somebody showed a slide like this. This is how we're explaining what capabilities we do, and then and it used to be 3, right? There used to be production engineering, me, and innovation, which is Alan's apps engineering group. So there were 3, we've sucked up 1, but we're always trying to communicate what we each do versus what we don't do for folks. I spend a lot of time doing that. The governance model, again, this is a company that didn't work together, so right away in the first month, we put together a number of councils. So Alan put together an apps engineering council to put in standard apps standards and make sure everybody was building so that we could plug and play what was building out of these groups. I put together a council for project greenlighting, because again, we weren't controlling across the company where the investments were being made, and not even investments with money, it was people, right? Like if you're gonna put 200 people on a project, that's still an opportunity cost, right? Even though there's no money out of the door. And then we put together an production engineering council, so all technology purchases had to go through this council. And I now have to sign off every technology purchase that happens in the company, which, by the way, the amount of capital we spend on hardware is craziness. And so that's actually by itself a full-time job, reviewing all their hardware purchases and deciding whether I'm going to let them buy stuff or not, right? And then the last one we put in place is I refuse to let we've had this talk at other companies I've been in, this executive council to make decisions. And in a lot of cases, you don't really need it. In this case, with 7 line of businesses, we needed it. And so, from the very beginning, I make them, every decision we make on the roadmap, I make them all get in a room and I make them all agree. And then, so we're in with them pretty regularly, showing them the roadmap. And if they come with something new, I make them all buy off on what they're taking out. And so that actually is working really well. And I do this just for funny illustration. So Alan, my work husband, when he was asked to do a demo early on to our relationship on his one workflow concept. So this is our plug and play architecture, right? And I looked at his thing and I said, well, where's all my stuff? I'm like, you can put this up, but I'm actually, if you're gonna get from what was the bid to how much profitability did we have on the bid, you can't ignore me, right? Like your thing doesn't really work, right? I have to do the sales at the front. I have to do the labor, because we're mostly labor, right? It's a professional services firm, really. All the money, all the time tracking to get to project costing. I do all the invoice and billing to customers, no matter what workflow system, and then our big behemoth under the whole thing, which is business intelligence. So all I did, this took 5 minutes, but it's been a little bit of a hit, and so they use it all the time to be illustrative of the process. But again, this is getting this company to start to think end to end, because they didn't. So organizational governance, I think a lot of this is going to resonate with the things that were said, hopefully in terms of best practices. I think we're doing a few of them at least. Organizational realignment, that's the centralization of services. I also, when I got there was no PMO, none, 0. There was no PMO methodology. There were no business analysts. We were the most order-taking group I've ever seen in my life. I sat in my first meeting and the business was running a Concur implementation, T&E. IT was sitting there going, well, what do you want that interface to look like? And I walk out of the meeting, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, who's running this project? And like, what are we trying to do? Does anybody know what they're doing? And they're like, no. And they had no concept. They just thought they were supposed to sit there and take an order for an interface, right? And honestly, they didn't have the skills to do much more than that when I got there. And so that organizational realignment happened. We put in the PMO, we put in that business process group, we put in business solutions directors, which for my Sony days, I was a beetle at one point, I hate to admit, which was, it's like a business relationship manager at a senior level. I'm putting those in right now, I'm hiring for those. Staffing, again, right when I got there, everybody does it when they first get somewhere, you do a skills assessment. I did a skills assessment and had shock and awe. And said, oh my God, what am I doing? And so literally, because we're trying to upskill the skills we have, I'm trying to feed in the skills we're missing, and we're doing a huge training effort. Like nobody even knew what ITIL was, right? More than half my organization is infrastructure, and they didn't, God forbid, ITSM. They didn't understand it. You couldn't even have a conversation because they didn't understand the concepts, right? So I've made everybody get ITIL certified, and then we'll move to ITSM. Communication was our biggest stumbling block. When I went out to the business, and we all do the same thing. I went interviewed every single one of the business heads. They said, I don't know what you do. I don't know what your team does. I don't think they work very hard. I mean, seriously. And like my team was running around like chickens, and we were running, over 100 projects, right? But we didn't talk to anybody. We didn't communicate. Nobody met with the business regularly. So immediately I put together a plan that everybody who reports to me had to commit to. They were all assigned specific people that they had to meet with on a regular basis, and it's part of their incentive, right? So not only do I meet with every single, and there's way too many of them, it's very hard to meet with every president when there's a bunch of them, right, on a regular basis. But I meet with every single president. I meet with every one of those the left technology leaders regularly, but then I also make my next layer do it and my next layer do it. And so we're hitting the organization very much. And actually it's funny because John thinks we're like now creating this big shared services organization. And he was yelling at everybody in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and he said, the only group who's doing communications right is Cindy's group. And it's because, I'm a firm believer in you just have to talk, right? And so, we put out, part of that for me was putting out monthly reporting on every project, every SLA, all of that we now do. We built a dashboard, all our SLAs and, all of our service metrics. They can see online real time, like, am I meeting the SLAs I agreed to? And there's a lot of work to do. But in terms of transparency, we're transparent. Good, bad, ugly, I want them to see it, right? And honestly, I can't fix it or get an investment to fix it unless somebody sees the need, and you don't see the need if you don't see the numbers. Metrics and reporting kind of goes with what I just talked about. There were no SLAs when I got there. And, we set SLAs. We've been meeting with the business to go through the SLAs and get agreement and report on them. We're just in the process of putting in somebody else said this too, a dashboard that's an electronic dashboard that allows, takes all the projects and uploads them into an overall dashboard. You can see overall metrics, and then you can click into a project to see any project. Then you can click into it and see the very details. What's the risk? And to me, it wasn't the tool for the project management. I don't care whether somebody uses, Project or Smart Sheets or whatever. I wanted a dashboard. And what that gave me was a dashboard that the business can see all projects. And there's still PMOs in the business. Some of them are for business projects. And we got agreement that everybody's using one thing. CEO will be able to log on at any moment and see the progress on any project and the metrics against those projects. And then management controls, we talked about the councils. That was a big part of management controls, really just, getting more visibility into what we were doing across the company and just, forcing this kind of governance and communication. So we talked a little bit about this, but, this goes to my concept on customer journeys. When we got there, we're very hierarchical, and then we were hierarchical and siloed. So there were 7 LOB, I think when I first got there was probably 14 LOB presidents. Now there's 7 line of business presidents, and there probably should be 2, but there's still 7. And then there were all these IT organizations, and so a lot of that's consolidated. It's still too much, but we are using completely this team-based approach to all product, all business development decisions, all of new formats. All of it, everyone's got a cross-functional team of senior management that's going across. And that's really speeding us and helping the coordination to get all the teams together to actually realize the benefits. So I think you were talking about UCLA. No offense to UCLA. When I was at News Corps, they had a relationship with MIT to put their IT leadership through. So Peter is one of the big professors in that program. I like him very much, not anywhere near as much as No, I don't hug Peter. And so, you know, one of the things that Peter says all the time is that a higher degree of process and technological standardization allows you to be more agile. And if you heard what I was saying, that's what we're doing, right? So we're spending a lot of time on process standardization and this, again, building a plug-and-play framework, because I think it's the only way we can actually react fast enough. And again, you know, these things are, happening. Like, seriously, Amazon called, I don't know, November, December, some point, and said, I'm going to give you all of our business next month, right? But we were already turning away business. And so, you know, we've got to react faster, or we lose our opportunities. And if we didn't take that business, somebody else would have, and we may have never gotten it back. And so getting everything ready so we can make these changes fast enough and we're ahead of them, I think is really, really key. And then IT is an enabler of value-added services. So this is really that, how do we productize IT? How do we get IT into the business discussions? As I said, we're there. Which sometimes I wish I wasn't, because it is, as you said, very, very, very time consuming, right? And it's hard when I'm trying to deal with operational stuff, keeping the lights on, and trying to sound really, you know, articulate on why we should buy one thing or another, right? Or why we should, you know, get into this. We're actually looking at business lines. Do we sell off stuff? You know, where do we think the business is going? What do we think our customers need? And, you know, you can't walk into that stuff unprepared, right? And so we are at that point. A lot of it has to do with technology, and it's a lot of the same stuff we talked about. For us, it's really about customer portals. We want customers to be able to get in, log on, order whatever they want from Deluxe, see the status of every order as it's going through the chain, so that they can, you know, see where it sits, and then get billed for it out the end. Believe it or not, them getting billed automatically is a huge thing that everybody wants. And so, you know, my team's building that. And, you know, not only do they want those things, but the other thing that we're spending a lot of time on is analytics. And again, you know, anybody who has a significant market share, they have data that's valuable, right? And we own a large portion of this market. And we have it. It's very difficult for us to tap right now because it's siloed across these systems. But we're making a lot of progress on pulling data together to give insight. And I'll give a simple one. We service both sides. So we service both content providers, right? So I build content, I give it to Deluxe. We also service the people who receive it, right? And one of the biggest issues is the receivers don't know when something's coming. You know, so that we may be giving status to the person who ordered it from us, but we're not giving status to the person receiving it. They don't know when it's coming. It just shows up. And so the data that we have, we can, you know, turn into something that's valuable to both sides of the equation. And that's really valuable. And again, that's how do you understand your market? What is it that you have access to that might be valuable? How do you mine that and put that together? And again, my team's in those discussions, and we're, you know, moving as fast as we can to do all these things at the same time. So, you know, data analytics is a huge initiative that we have. That one workflow and how that happens. All these acquisitions all are happening with the changes in the market.
Is that data analytics across all the business, all the units?
Yes.
One,
yes.
Dashboard?
Yes.
Is it predictive and prescriptive, or is it just visual analytics?
We are doing, so for us, we're not an...
Just visual.
No, I know. But so for us, we're not really an IoT thing, right? That's not really, there's some things that make sense for us, some don't. Machine learning is the big thing for us. Because we really need to predict like how much content's going through a pipe, and can we support that with the new business that's coming? Because I mean, infrastructure for us is just a huge expenditure, and I can talk about cloud in a second. And so doing things that actually allow us to predict and forecast is where we're spending a lot of our time. The first, because nothing existed, right? And I've been here 10 months. Getting the dashboards out that actually give at least what we're doing versus what we said we were going to do, that was like a lot of work because that data didn't exist. So we've got that up and working. And now we've got people working on, we've hired some data scientists. They're actually doing that predictive modeling that we're building into the platform. And so that, and then we're also dealing with this, what is it we think we've got that we can start to pull together for our customers. So we're doing all three. So the views are really the customer view. So we're dealing with our customers on so all those dashboards feed into those customer portals to show the customers what we're doing. So a lot of it is, are we delivering to them on time? How often, what's the error rate on the product we're giving them? All that stuff is from a customer view. So that's part of what we're doing. And then we have the executive view to allow John to manage the business better. And his whole thing is the business is supposed to be managing their business on data, which they weren't, right? And then, because they didn't have it. And then, a lot of it's about how do we automate this end-to-end process? Because quality control is something that for 90% of the stuff should be automated, right? And so we're building all of that in as fast as we can, where we think it adds the most value. And right now it's all those decision makings on, and that goes to the small, minimal viable. Where do we get the biggest bang for this? How do we prove it out? And then we'll pick the next one, but let's not wait till we can do this enterprise-wide. Okay, so I'm going to end on just a recent Bob Iger quote. And you have to be willing to create or experience some disruption. And this is from 3 weeks ago, I think. It was at Cablevision or something. You have to be willing to create or experience some disruption as we migrate from what has been a more traditionally distributed world to a more modern or non-traditional distribution world. So this market is changing like crazy. And honestly, Deluxe made it through the first round of digitization. I honestly believe if we don't create this one single end-to-end platform, we'll be dead again in a few years. A lot of this stuff we do is automatable. And if we can automate it, if we can provide it, and then we add the talent that we have on top of it, and build something that's, we have, as I said, 12 countries. We can do global work share if we have a single platform, right? We can reduce costs. We can put the best talent around the world on things that we have to do to survive. So to me, we made it once, but we're at the point that we have to make it again in order for us to really be here in 5 more years. So hopefully that was interesting. Any question? Yeah.
So you walk into this big morass of stuff.
Yes, thank Rich Hoffman. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So Cindy, what was your process? I'm curious as what your process was for identifying the priorities, after stepping into the door. And were some of those things just very evident that you had to knock off right away?
What I would say is it's been a journey, right? So I misunderstood how fast John wanted to change everything. And so, I have a boss who's the CFO, but I also report to the CEO, so I meet with him every other week. And my boss's was, this is going to be over time, build some credibility, move this stuff together. John was like, do it tomorrow, right? And so the first month or so I spent, interviewing the business, seeing my team. I made a whole plan together. That was lovely, throw it away, right? Because within another month, it became evident I was taking all these other groups over and my priorities were changing. So it was still valuable. I needed to do that. So, just like I said, Alan and I have presented what we do to the senior management team 3 times now, and it's different every time. What is my focus is changing pretty regularly. I have to personally be very agile. So everything identified the first time did need to be fixed, but in the priority of things, some of it isn't going to get fixed. And I'll give an example. I'm responsible for SAP. I saw our SAP system and it was another shock and awe, right? We're a project company. We didn't have project costing turned on. We didn't have profitability analysis turned on. We can't see the profitability of our jobs. We didn't have procure to pay turned on. There were 40,000 customers. I'm sorry, anybody who is in a studio, there's no way we have more than 4,000 customers. We have 40,000 in the system because they let everybody just set them up willy-nilly. so that would have been what I consider one of my and honestly, I think it still is one of my #1 priorities, but the business doesn't think it is. And I spent months putting together a whole how to re-implement SAP. Do I re-implement or fix SAP? Can I even fix it? And what do I do? It didn't make it. So it'll happen probably next year. So, it's an evolving thing. So as I said, the key is talking. So I spent a lot of time with the business, all the time trying to understand the priorities and then re-communicate back to John. Because a lot of what I have to do, I hate to say it, is bring John's expectations to what I really can deliver and have him give some guidance on where he thinks we should be putting the focus. I love being the downer person. Yeah.
That's the last question. With all the dashboard metrics and everything, what has been your experience in terms of identifying project failures, or has that helped you to determine which project should go forward, which one should be canceled?
I've only been here 10 months, so there's not that much experience against big projects. Where it's helped, though, tremendously is on our delivery to our customers. And so what we've been able to do a lot of work on is stuff profitable? Because a lot of times they were selling and then they didn't know at the end whether or not actually how much it cost versus what they sold it for, so they can see that now. Not in all cases, but in a lot of the cases. So that it's helped with, and it's also helped with our failure rates. Because we've been able to identify where we were having issues with quality or whatever, and we were able to target those. So our numbers in terms of quality and delivering on time, and for us, delivering on time is sometimes it's the difference between hours, right? Because especially for a theatrical release that's getting distributed, especially Christmas, it's like it goes that minute, right? And if we're 10 minutes late, it's like the end of the world. And so that it's helped with a lot. I would say not so much yet with the project green lighting, because I don't think we've got enough data at this point to really to do that with.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, I can ask her questions afterwards.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just to close off thank you, Cindy, again.
Yeah.
Just to close off the session, I had few takeaways. I think there are 20 takeaways. Every speaker was very inspiring. I learned a lot. But I noted few. One is simplicity. What I observed is every leader out here is trying to drive to simplicity, complex organization. Make it simple so you can make it agile. The passion, the passion to drive to an end result. I think that's for leaders. We got to remember that if you're not passionate about our jobs, you're not going to get to the next step. The desire for change, and that is connected with passion. I saw that in every leader out here. And need experience. Millennials will not make everything happen. So big takeaway. So with that, just want to close the session and invite Dawn, Davida? Davida, okay. Davida to close off the session. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Davida Johnson. I'm the Managing Director with the Office of Information Technology. We are the sponsors of this program. And I wanted to present gifts for our sponsors of this meeting, Solemn Consulting and Avery Dennison. So if those representatives come in, please get your gifts. Thank you. Don has them.
Chris definitely earned that.
Oh.
I'm used to it.
He's going to let them spend more money now. We can't do these meetings without our sponsors. They've been great partners for us, and we are just very appreciative to our sponsors. I also wanted to remind everyone of some of our upcoming events. I'm sure if you're on the email list, which all of you hopefully are, next weekend, May 5th through the 7th, is the Data Hackathon here at UCLA. If you've never been to a hackathon event before, I invite you to come out and just take a look and see what they do. There will be 300 students participating. I can't tell you who the the company is. It's a secret data set. But last year it was Ticketmaster, and the students come up with amazing insights and visualization to the data that they're provided. So if you can come out and spend an hour, maybe at midnight, they'll still be working. But please, I do invite you. We asked for coaches and judges, and we got a lot of participation there. But again, get involved with the life of millennials. May 18th, we have the CIO Exchange, where we have Keith Chen, who's a professor at Anderson School of Management here, and he also was the chief, make sure I get his name right, he was one of the chief architects for Uber with the data, the surge pricing model. So if you were a CIO, it's like a very intimate setting where you can learn a lot about what his perspective was being at Uber and also just being a professor of economics here. And the Southern California CIO Executive Summit is coming up. Some of you have gone every year. It's a great event. It's June 7th in LA, downtown LA. IS Associates is a co-host with that event every year, so you should be getting invitations in the mail very soon. And for the summer, we have other events in the fall, but just put in your calendar. For the summer, July 27th is our next IS Associates meeting. And it'll be in Poly Pavilion, and we're going to focus on cybersecurity and new technologies. So it's an interactive session. It's a lot of fun, and hope you enjoyed today. And thank you for coming. We're going to have more food out there, so please gather and meet people while you are here, and get to know someone that you have not met before. Thank you.